3, 2. Oh my God.
Yo, what's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program.
Shout out to Airtime, y'all podcast.
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Today's guest I've known for, 15 years, 10, 15 years. In the last 10, he has been at the forefront of progression for contest and park riding. And in the last couple, he's been dabbling into the backcountry. And if I was a betting man, and I do like to gamble, I would say that he's going to be at the forefront of progression in the backcountry for the next 10 to 15 years as well. We got the one and only, big personality, amazing human, Darcy Sharpe on the podcast. Thanks for coming on. How you doing, boss?
Wow, thanks, man. I'm good. That was a nice intro. You nailed it. Well, like that's a lot, but thank you.
It's true, though.
It.
I say this at the beginning of every podcast, though, because I do the nice introduction.
Yeah.
Because the guests that I'm having on the show, I'm a big fan of. And because I'm the one who does the homework beforehand, I get to watch all the footage. You know, you scroll back to the beginning of Instagram, you do your YouTube deep dive, you do the Google deep dive, and you kind of get a resume of what that person has contributed to snowboarding, to whatever they like doing.
Yeah.
And for you, that is snowboarding, and it's fucking crazy, dude. Like, the first time I ever saw you, I think, was at Camp of Champions maybe 10 years ago. I feel like we were hiking a down bar. It was in a Footy Fiend edit. And you were doing some cab over 270s. Anyways, I was like, wow, this kid has that raw talent. And here we are many moons later.
Yeah, that would have been 13 years ago, because I remember that cab over 2 shot in that Footy Fiend edit, and it was the year I came back from breaking my pelvis. So that's why I got to age. I'm not good with like memory and dotting things on a map, a timeline, but I can dot that one 13 years ago.
You remember that?
Yeah, for sure.
Damn, I thought that was a me thing.
No, I mean, Footy Fiend edits, are you kidding me? That was like a early days highlight. You're like, I'm getting a Footy Fiend edit.
Dude, those are big. That for Footy Fiend at one point became like Canada's Sunday in the park.
Fully, for sure.
Like, that was a good stamp. Like, if Jordan was hitting you up to do some laps, yeah, it meant a lot. And I remember hiking that rail with you a long time ago, and back to the it factor, I was like, this guy just has it. And we just went to Japan together.
Yeah.
It was an amazing trip. Japan's amazing. The people are amazing. The food is sometimes amazing and sometimes not. But was it your first time riding powder in Japan?
Yep, that was my first Japan trip, and I agree. Like, the food, first like 5 days, you're like in heaven, or 4 days, you're like, what? This is all so cool. And then by like 2 weeks in, you're kind of like, all right, like, I'm ready for some food I'm used to now. That was my first Japan trip. Yeah, and I loved it. So fun. I've been telling people since getting home, like, my favorite part was that I feel like out here, kind of like, as you said, like getting into backcountry more and more, I'm surrounded by like so many legends and OGs and people that really know their way around the mountains and know what zones are good when and all that stuff. So I'm often like kind of following and just like hitting what people suggest to hit and this and that. And what I liked about Japan was it was more like we were just walking around, and if I saw something that I thought could work, I could kind of be like, hey guys, I'm going to build this. I'll radio you in like a bit when it's done or whatever. And whether you or Rusty or Torgeir thought it was going to work, it didn't really matter. You guys are like, all right, we're going to go build this thing that we want to hit, have fun. And then so I could kind of like let my creativity go a little bit more than here, which I'm hoping I'll get there here, like, you know, finding my own lines, finding my own features and stuff like that. But that was nice. That was like the first time I felt like really in charge of what I was hitting was on that trip, because you just walk around and see something. It's kind of like a seafood diet with features.
And I think that's what a filmer like Rusty, we also had Christian there. So you have, and like a photographer, whoever you're working with on the media side, they tend to be older, not all the time. And Torgeir, he's a bit of a vet, and myself. Like, my favorite thing about bringing somebody new and younger into the backcountry is the fact that they have a new approach. They have a new bag of tricks. They've been riding the park different. They have a different finger on the pulse of what they want their snowboarding to look like. And you did exactly that. Like, we went to some features that the tricks that you did, I was like, I not in a million years did I even think that was possible. Like, when you first said the trick that, I won't say it because it's a little bit of a leak.
Yeah.
But there was one trick in particular, and if you check out Rusty's feature film in the fall that's coming up. This trick will be in it. And it's kind of one of those tricks that when the younger generation's like, I'm going to try this. And you're like, what? Like, I don't understand. It does not compute.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't even see or figure that out. Like, I walked by that feature and I was like, nothing to do here.
That's awesome.
But you had a couple of tricks like that. Even the tap back one into that steep bank. Yeah. Another feature, I was like, ain't nobody can ride this thing.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought that was the one you were talking about, actually. So yeah, that was really fun. That was one of my highlights. And then doing it with you guys and kind of just changing the pace, like the journey of going on a snowboard trip. That was the first time I'd packed my bag to go on a trip where it wasn't just try to park somewhere. It's like first time packing the verts, packing the transceiver, shovel, all that stuff. And that was pretty cool at home doing, like, whoa, I'm going like to do what I'm used to doing, but something different, you know? So that was pretty sick to, and also as I'm like thinking more and being more okay with letting go of contests, one thing that does make me sad is like less global travel, which is super fun on tour competing. Like that's one of the highlights. And so doing that was cool because I was like, oh, I'm still going to get it. I still get to go places.
What would you say allows you to unlock that next level? Similar to, and I'm going to use this analogy, Travis Rice. I see a little bit of Travis in you, especially now after spending some time with you.
That's really nice.
There's a little bit of like, this is what's possible, but like, what can I do? And what do I understand about the physics of snowboarding and this feature, and how can I add all that together into my own like creative bundle? Like for example, the one tree that you're doing the back three, tap the bottom of the tree and then like 360 out of the tree. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, I can't even, I'm like, I'm a front three indie this thing. Yeah. Like what has allowed you to unlock thinking like that?
I mean, I bet you a good bit of it is like just a bunch of park riding at a level that's pretty high. So you work with physics a lot, just like figuring things out, taking a fair share of like backdrops and all that stuff. But I don't know. I think another thing I'd have to pay a lot of credit to is like riding side hits a bunch, because you like figure out just like when you talk about physics and stuff where you'll wind up and whatnot. But that might be a little bit more of what you're talking about, like just the unknown factor, or like having a creative thing in your head that I think everybody probably has it, but not everybody knows how to like kind of reach it and reach for it and be confident that you can just try something and hope it works out. But I've always wanted to do things a little different. Like the snowboarders I looked up to growing up were always like unique characters in the snowboarding. It was never really the like mainstream person. It was always like the guy that's a little funkier, like a Haldor or something. So just having that as inspiration, I feel like my brain's always working to try to do stuff like that. Also, being a contest rider, there's a part of me that like understands when contests are going down that it can get a little dry watching like 60 guys do everything. So I always was riding with like a mentality of like, how do I stoke people out to want to snowboard? How do I stoke kids out to be like hyped on what they're watching, and stoke myself out so that when I like come back here next year, it feels fresh again, or go to the next contest next week, it feels fresh again. I'm not just doing like the cab 2 450 down a rail or whatever, like trying to hit 3 rails in this one rail section or whatever. So I think my brain's just always like worked in that fashion that you're explaining, like to figure things out and then not be scared to fail. Just like be able to take a body.
Yeah, the one thing that I really picked up after binging all your stuff, to speak to what you were just talking about there, is the inconsistency that you would bring to a slopestyle run. And what I mean by inconsistency isn't meaning like falling and stuff. I just mean like each run is fucking different. Like the one thing that if it was your first, second, third, and fourth, they would all be different runs. Like you wouldn't do this consistent rail run and then this consistent jump run. It almost seemed like you're like, fuck, it'd be kind of fun to do like an off the toe 9, and it's a perfect feature, and like I'm only here today, like I might as well just give her a go. Like I think I speak to most people who have followed your career when nobody really knows what Darcy Sharpe is going to do. Yeah.
And thank you. I definitely pride myself a bit on that. But I will say that sometimes it gets a little bit like the switchback 12, frontside or backside, definitely did go down quite a few times. But in the rails, I always try to switch up. And if there's a feature that allows it, like a quarter pipe hit or whatever, then kind of it'll get different. But yeah, it's really, I think, important, but it's hard sometimes because at the end of the day, we're all like, as a contest boarder, you're a product of what the judges are scoring high, because you see something score high and you're kind of like, oh, I gotta like go do that. But then there's like a battle within, kind of like, do I make myself happy or do I go make the judges happy? And the best is when you can do both, but it doesn't always work out. So, or you need to find middle ground, which, yeah, I feel like that was often a conversation with the coach where it's like, I'd be like, I don't want to go do this rail trick because I've done it so many times in past contests. But he's like, yeah, but it scores amazing. Like every time it doesn't fail to not get a great score and really stoke the judges out. But I'm kind of like, yeah, but I don't want to, like, I want to do something different for myself. And for, like I said, the people watching, they'll be stoked. So yeah, tried to lock that in as long as possible. But now it's just getting crazy, like to separate yourself. Some guys do it well, but for the most part, you just got to spin.
Well, that's one thing that you did, and you can wear as a badge, is that you did it different, for sure.
Thanks.
The one X Games contest that comes to mind is the front 14 off the toes nose grab. I've seen the front 10 nose grab, but and Craig announcing that's amazing. He's like, what he's like, I gotta rewatch that. Was that the front 10 nose grab or the front 14 nose grab? And it's off the toes, massive.
I'd never done that before. I did one front 14 off the toes before, and it was on Shack here in Whistler, like the big jump in our park. And I did it with no grab. And that was the only other time I had done it. And then I kind of did that same run, but with a 10 there. And we were just thinking about like where the upgrades could come from. And I was kind of at the time, like I think that was 2018. I was kind of tapped on, it was as good of a run as I could do. And we were like, well, just snap for that 14 and grab nose and hope it happens. And it happened. It was crazy. Even just, I think about it back and I like trip out on being able to do the back 14 after, because like when you like land a personal, never been done before trick, you're kind of frothing, but then you like hone it back in like, okay, take a breath, snap. And you can kind of see it in that run, that back 14 after that front 14 nose is a little loose. It's like just, whoa, here I go. But yeah, that was really fun. That was a great memory. First X Games medal.
What was that? Was that the gold or was that silver?
That was silver.
How many X Games medals do you have?
5.
Damn. So you got a gold, 2 silvers?
Yeah. And 2 bronze.
Two bronze.
Mm-hmm.
2, that's a good, like, I don't know where you're at, and maybe we can kind of transition a little bit here, but like you're doing a little bit of contests, you're doing a little bit of backcountry. Do you have to pick one? Do you need to? I mean, Mark Mick does it.
Yeah.
Fucking Red's doing it.
I was going to say a couple guys are doing it that are kind of proving, well, the couple guys are doing it that you can prove that you can do both, but really I would say, and this might like bum a couple people out, but I think Mark and Red are the only guys doing it and actually exceeding at both.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Other people that do both kind of are like, maybe they have amazing parts. I don't want to talk on their parts, but contest results, it's not like there's many other people getting podiums and then filming sick full parts. So I think you can do both, but I do think that like to perform that well on hard pack snow and spinning as much as you got to spin and all that, you got to stay like in the pocket of knowing your body mechanics and like just snowboarding a bunch. And then the backcountry, it's like no easy feat to have your crew set up to get out there. Like that takes time too. And so I think they're both really time consuming, maybe less than people even assume from like the outside perspective. They think it's just like a show up and go get clips. And I think that's partly why like a Mark and a Red would do well, because they have a lot of backing to be able to go to the mountains and have it sorted for them. Like they pull up and they got their crews, they got their, if they need a truck driven somewhere with a sled on it, like they'll be able to kind of sort that stuff out, which I bet helps for sure. And
Huge.
you can do it without having that, but I'm sure that helps. Or you can have heli days too. That's massive. If you're competing and then you come home and then you're in a bird getting shots, like that takes a little less time, because it's just like show up in the morning and we're gonna go get backcountry shots and then plop you back and you can get on your way. So I think it kind of does make you choose. I like the guys that are still pushing to be able to do both. There's definitely a bunch of them, but it is hard and it's getting less realistic. Like you watched X Games this year. Like if you want to be at that level and have 2+ weeks out in the backcountry, where like 2 weeks on the minimum, but I'm sure like if you're really good, you can make a part. But It's hard to do both, I think.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the 10-year reign of somebody like Mark McMorris, Shaun White, is going to be in the cards for the future? Or are we just getting... Snowboarding is like growing so fast in the trick department that a 10-year hiatus of being on top of the podium seems like not even realistic anymore. It's just like every year there's just like some random Japanese guy or Chinese guy that no one's ever heard of that's like, yeah, he's got the 2160 in the bag. You're like, what,
Yeah,
dude? Like, who is this dude? He's been boarding for like 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Dude, that actually like happened to me with one of the Chinese riders, I think. I saw him like 2 years prior to this story, and he was like scary to watch hit the jump. I think he had a wild card spot in the Aaron style Beijing there. And we were all like, whoa, this is like dangerous at this point. And then we go back 2 years later, and he's like got better jump tricks than all of us. How quickly it happened. We were like, what are they doing out there? And I think it's insane what they're doing out there. I like sometimes I'll see on Ming's story, like a photo drop of their training facility. I don't know if this is correct. This might be totally a wrong interpretation, but what I saw. But I'm pretty sure I saw a bag jump, and then you'd go up an elevator and hit a bag jump back, then go up an elevator. You know, like
So
they never walk, they never loop. It's just like hit. Maybe that doesn't exist. If it doesn't, somebody should build it. The training would go way up.
It might have been a dream.
Yeah, it might have been a dream. Canada doesn't have an airbag. When we build one, we should build it like that. Get shit done like that. Double the reps.
I think we've taken it beyond, like, I think Mark McMorris might be one of the last ones to be like, I learned the front triple on snow.
Yeah, I think so. And to answer your prior question, I'm reluctant to say I think it's a thing of the past, because I think that's why like sports and athletes are such incredible humans, because they find a way to like push it, you know, like somebody's probably going to find a way to hold it down and win for a very long time. Like I feel even after Sean's reign, you'd think like, oh, he's probably got every record forever now. And then I think Scotty just like beat one of his records for like most X Games wins in a row or something. And same goes for like Mark's medal count in X Games. Like you'd think nobody can really touch that, but that's why athletes are incredible. Like there might be somebody that comes through and holds it down for that long. But I don't think you're wrong to think we'll see a quicker turnaround of guys. I don't even know if like... there's probably some studies you could do like on the 21, like what the oldest guy who's done a 21 is, and it's probably like, I wonder if that's going to stay there, because maybe once you get to a certain age you can't do it, your eyes fall out or something.
This is where AI without a doubt is going to have to come into Olympic judging, because if you're a judge and you think it was a 16 but it was a 21, like anything after a 14 for me personally, like I had to do a double take on your front 14 nose at X, like, because I was like, was that a 14 or a 10 too? And then the way Craig said it, I was like, maybe it was just a front 10. And I was like, no, it looked like a 14. But like that hesitation when you're talking about live TV with like X Games, or Olympics, is like no bueno. Like,
dude, I don't blame the announcers for getting it off sometimes, because even me watching now, I've shifted from watching a trick and knowing what it is to purely paying attention to their nose and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, and then matching the amount of rotations to what the spin is. It's insane, dude. Like the fact that our eyes can barely render the spin, it's pretty incredible to think guys are spinning that fast and rendering how to then stomp the living hell out of it.
2003 X Games judges are screwing up the cab 5. They're like, was it a cab 3 or the cab 5? Kevin Sansalone.
Yeah.
Shout out Kevin Sansalone, who did win the X Games with a switchback side. Was it switchback side rodeo or backside of rodeo?
I think switchback rodeo.
Oh, dude. Shit. Are you cracking into a delicious monster here?
Yeah, I'm cracking into the delicious Ultra Fantasy Ruby Red. I noticed you have a monster too.
It's a sponsor now of the show. Big shout outs to Monster Energy for supporting myself at Airtime and snowboarding. They've always been behind what I would consider some of my favorite lanes in snowboarding, whether it's Jess Kamura's Uninvited or Videograss or 8 Mile, or the list kind of just goes on. And
yeah,
I always feel like they get behind the right shit. So I really appreciate it. This stamp gets me hyped, and
man, I'm hyped for you. Looks good in the studio.
Thank you very much, Monster.
Very nice touch.
Stoked. Let me ask you this. Contest riding. contest riding is fueled by not only Monster Energy, but it's also fueled by the pressure that one is willing to put on themselves in the risk department, in like what is driving you to learn these tricks. Like, you know, the mental clock in at X when you're like, I got to go from the 10 to the 14. Here we go. Like, where are you extracting that extra motivation to go? Do you have to go into a place? Did some kid punch you in the face in grade 5 and you're like, fuck you, Tyler? Like, where do you get that extra, like, the clock into that next level? Like, It is insane when you are a top tier athlete who's going to go up to a jump and be like, I think I got the speed dialed. I'm going switchback 16 on this. Like, that's a fucking fascinating maneuver by a human.
No doubt. Especially if, like, the last season they tried it and got knocked out. Like, I think I'm going to try it again. Yeah, no doubt. I think it's probably a different, like a mix of things for all riders across the board that get to the level of being at that start gate of X Games or whatever, like a select few people. But I'm sure it comes from different kind of motivations. Like some people might be, you got like maybe the teachers told you you're never going to amount to anything, so you want to prove them wrong. Like I'd say I more come from that kind of camp, being like shredder, and it being looked at as like almost like the class clown and this guy who's not taking it seriously here. And knowing I love snowboarding, I'd say that is more my route of like motivation, where I'm like, I gotta make a life out of this, so I gotta be like pushing, you know. And I think some people passion just for like sporting excellence or just excellence in general, you know. Like I always say, like most snowboarders at this level probably have a couple of screws loose in their head, like they must, and then they bonk their head a couple times undoubtedly through their career, and then that's why we're all just such chill guys to hang out with.
You're here, brother.
Yeah, but I think that like then you look at a guy like Mons, where you're like, he doesn't seem like he has loose screws. Like he's a stand-up individual, like classy guy. And a bunch of the Norwegian guys, they're all stand-up people. So maybe you got to ask the next Norwegian you have on the show, ask them the same question. Be like, where do you get off? Because it seems like you're chilling. But yeah, it's all different, I think.
But maybe what drives those Norwegians is the history they have within snowboarding as some of the greatest contest, competitive, stylish athletes. And they're like, I got to like rep my shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like America's like, their whole thing is like, we have winners that live here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and like, there's a lot of people like Sage and stuff that like, they want to be the best. You know what I mean? And especially you watch those like movies, like when you're a kid, like, I don't know, whatever, any movie, there's always the story of the person that was the underdog and then he becomes the best. And when you're like a 9-year-old boy, you're kind of like, I want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And then mixed just love of snowboarding. Like, I think that's probably most people just love snowboarding a bunch. So then they apply what you just said, like just in general, everybody thinks that'd be a cool thing to do. So if you love snowboarding a bunch and then you mix wanting to be the best, like I'd say that's where you can kind of source out those little percentages to like do some crazy run or whatever.
I mean, you have a sister, Darcy Sharpe, who's an Olympic gold, X Games golds, absolutely crushing it in her field. You got an older brother, Doug, who's absolutely crushing it in the social media, YouTube world, fun fact guy.
Yeah.
An amazing mom and dad. How much do you get fueled by like your family? If you have two siblings that are crushing it in their disciplines, like is there a little bit of a rivalry there, or like?
Yeah, I get
healthy maybe.
Yeah, healthy.
Or toxic.
Yeah, no, it's healthy. I get fueled a lot by them. Like Cassie, especially just because we were at contests, like her half pipe here, my course here, so many events. So it's kind of cool. Like we could check in on each other during practice, or like she would take a slam or I would take a slam, and like we'd be there right away to check if we were okay and stuff. Ooh. Which is like pretty nice to have somebody close to home and give you that sense of comfort on the road. And then I feel like for a while I was kind of doing good in my career and getting some results and getting invites to things, and it was awesome, and I was kind of like, oh my god, this is amazing. And Cassie was still like putting in the work and grinding. Like she had a bit of a later kind of like growth spurt into being the best, and then all of a sudden she was at all the events with me, and then all of a sudden she was winning all the events, and then that's what, holy, maybe I'm not doing so good just being here, I gotta like get some results here. But it always like her events usually would go before mine, and it's like the most motivating thing ever to have your sibling go clean up a medal and just be like, I want to bring one home too, like, or else like she's getting more mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving. Like, you know, you get that little motivation there. And then Dougie motivates me kind of in a different way, my older brother, because he just recently, it's only been like 2 years since he's kind of killed it with becoming a creator and creating like a job from that. And before that, he was living in China and then came home and working construction and that kind of stuff. And I feel like he kind of was like, did the classic older brother role of like paved the way of like making a bunch of mistakes throughout teenagehood, getting in a bunch of trouble, showing me at least kind of what not to do in a sense. Cause he was good at snowboarding too, but then just like got caught up on like being cool with the snowboard kids, like hanging out, smoking weed, whatever, like just not really like pushing it, more just like being a part of the crew. So I took a lot of inspiration and kind of like, no, I don't want to. And I would watch my parents get mad about stuff he was doing. And that would kind of scare me because I was like a 6-year age gap. So I was like 11, 12, watching them get like super mad about stuff he was doing. And I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. So I like give him a lot of credit to kind of allowing me to stay on a path that let me get to like a point of starting to travel, starting to become a professional snowboarder and stuff without kind of getting caught up in other trouble that people often do.
How old are you right now?
29.
So you're 29. I feel like if you're 29 and you haven't derailed your whole life into substances and other stuff, which is a big part of our community, but not even our community. Like addiction and that whole world doesn't like be like, we're going to go for this group. It's just, it doesn't fucking matter who you are, what you do. You could be a lawyer or a homeless person. It doesn't matter. But you've never fall victim to that. There was a point there where I think you smoked maybe weed in excess and then you toned that down. Like, did you ever feel like there was maybe a little bit of pressure to get into that and you just, you're like, nah, like.
Yeah, it's an issue these days for sure. Dude, I remember being like 12 and one of the snowboarders I looked up to at Mount Washington, like looked up to him a lot. His name was Andrew. And he was like, dude, your style would be so much better if you smoked weed. I was 12, dude. I was like, what? Like, that seems a little crazy. He's like, man, like your back tails would just be like, oh, and I'm like, I'm okay, I'm good. And that's where I say like the Islanders kind of like, people were doing that, like 13-year-olds smoking weed. And that's where I say I give credit to my brother because I didn't want to do that at that age. First, a lot of my friends were doing that kind of stuff. And then leading later into life, I think I just realized that like when I like stuff, like I'll go at it. Like I'll go in full excess, full passion, full charge. Like there's not a lot of moderation in my life when I like something. Like I just lock in or buy a lot of it or whatever, whether it's anything. And so that I had the awareness to know that if I liked drugs, I would do them often. So then I just told myself like I'm never doing drugs, never touching that stuff, and just held true to that my whole life because I didn't want to derail. And I saw myself like I was pretty young when snowboarding started to kind of give me a lot in life and started to give me travel and all this stuff. And I didn't want to mess that up. So it wasn't never like a battle for me, and been in a lot of rooms with a lot of people, as you know, where it's like people are whatever doing all kinds of random drugs and substances and you get offered. And I always was like pretty easy to just say no. Also not bothered being there. Like whatever, you do whatever you want, but I just didn't want to blow it,
And the thing is, like, nobody thinks they're blowing it at the beginning. When somebody's just getting into it, there is no like, I'm blowing it right now.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just having fun. Like,
Yeah.
you don't understand. I'm an introvert, and this makes me funny, and everyone thinks I'm amazing when I'm on it. And I stay up later, and I can like flirt with the cute boys and girls later into the wee hours in the night. And it's only 10 years later when you're like, this is kind of busted.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You look in the mirror, and your mom calls you, and you have a couple missed calls. You don't want to answer that shit. You're like, all right, this is like not fucking cool anymore.
Well, that's like I said, like I know I have no moderation. So I'm like, if I like I'll just do it. So
low points. Though snowboarding does not come without a couple like fuck. With those low points, a lot of people fucking can derail. Was there ever just a point where you were just like fuck, and then how did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think there's like two that stood out in my mind right when you said that. The first would be not making the Olympics in 2018. That like really bummed me out. And that was because I was kind of like near the top of my game in riding contests and stuff, and always being like top 5, top 10 kind of finishes, which ultimately, if I'm doing that consistently, I'd be in that top 4 Canadians that get to go. And then at the first qualifying event of the season in Locks, that would have been 2017, I bet, because it was a qualifying year. I broke my ankle, like practice of finals, cracked it. And when that happened, I remember it was so painful. That was like a brutal break, like rammed my tibia into the like base of my bone and like it's cracked off. And then went up to the top, and I remember being like, just tape me up and I'll still ride. And they were like, we don't know about that. I'm like, yeah, no, I swear it's not that bad. Like just tape. They're like, okay, like stand up. And then they're like, do a calf raise. And I like could not do a calf raise. They're like, yeah, we just don't think if you can't do a calf raise, you probably can't send it down this course. And I was like, all right. And then from there, went to the hospital, got scans. They thought it might be a high ankle sprain. Definitely had that break. And then the guy kind of, like that whole point, I kind of was staying tough, being like, this will be like a couple weeks. Like it's probably bad ankle sprain. And then when he told me that, that's like when I like kind of broke down in the sense of like start crying, just so bummed that I like the whole majority of the qualifying would be taken away from me. And then went through the recovery of that. No surgery needed, just needed to chill in an air boot and whatnot. And then came back, and there was still kind of a chance I could make it because I had that top 10 finish at Locks. And then there was like 2 more contests left, or maybe there was, 2 more contests back. So I come back, start shredding in April, board to full health, but still like ankles are bad. They kind of like linger. Have you ever had an ankle thing?
I only tweaked one of my ankles really bad. Skateboarding, long time, like a roll. And then I re-injured it snowboarding. And till this day, there's certain tricks I've had to like just let go because they just don't work anymore.
Dude, ankles are not fun. So I'm pretty much at full health, and then go do the New Zealand World Cup, and so I'm holding on to the Locks 10th place, and then there's New Zealand World Cup and Dew Tour, and then qualifying's over after that, and they take your top 3. So I like need a result every single one I'm back. So then I'm doing New Zealand, and it's hurting. Like it's progressively through the week, getting physio every day on it. It's like not so bad that it's giving me a limp, but like it's definitely really sore. And I pushed through the pain there, make it to finals, push through the pain in finals. And I remember last jump, I think I did a switchback 12. I don't remember my run exactly, but the last jump I went big and put on my stomping knees and stomped, and it hurt so freaking badly. And I ended up getting second at that contest, which I was psyched on second, but I left on crutches. Like I couldn't walk after that landing. So I'm leaving there on crutches, going back to the drawing board on how to get my ankle feeling better. So then go into the fall, recover my ankle really hard, start working to try to make it better. And then Dew Tour comes around, and I need another second place to qualify.
Like a second or a first.
Yeah.
Third doesn't even do it.
Third doesn't do it. And so I'm going into there like pretty darn stressed out, and I do my best, and still the ankle's bothering me, but manageable. And I got 6th place. And then, so I think after that, through the next Olympics, probably like 4 months, I was pretty bummed. And that was a low point in snowboarding. Like the injury, that whole process was just backstory to kind of have to tell less about how bummed I was, because obviously I was pretty bummed.
Was young Darcy Sharpe a big fan of the Olympics and X Games, and did you want to do well? Because if you did, and you were working for, let's say, 10 years towards that goal, and it slips away, it's not a 1 year like, I blew it this year, I'll get it next year. You're like, I've put my whole life into this. This is the best I've ever been at snowboarding. And then you take a bad fucking ankle injury, and the 6th place is kind of like give me 28th place.
Yeah.
Or like don't even, like 6th is like, you're kind of like, fuck, if I would have just...
Dude, especially because you're kind of like, you feel like you're there, right? And you feel like you should be going, because you're like, where I got injured was in a finals where I could have done better than 10th. And then I got second at the next event, and then I just got 6th. Like I'm in the top zone, you know. But with everybody else, the whole season they were able to stack enough to be doing better than that. And to answer your question, I grew up wanting to go to the X Games for sure. Like was super fired up on the X Games. Like I remember that so much, just watching it, wanting to be there, watching the guys do tricks and whatnot. But Olympics, we didn't really have it, and I didn't watch halfpipe that much. So I didn't really care about going to the Olympics that much, but it holds a different kind of weight because, like, you know, your grandma knows about it. Like everybody can resonate with like, oh, you went to the Olympics? You did good with your life. Like it's like an obvious check mark that then starts to hold more importance on you because people care.
I ain't even gonna lie. I know exactly what you talking about. My mom and dad are like, they clock in for it. They're like, did you see? I'm like, Mom, I filmed a video part last year for Sandbox.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm killing it.
Yeah. So that one was a bummer. And my sister won that Olympics, which helped me, but I didn't go to watch her, and like most of my family did. But I was like in such a place of anger that I was like, I can't go and I'm not in it. Like I didn't earn my spot to go, like, and looking back on that, I regret it a little bit because I was a little too like looking in. Like I should have went and like supported my sister no matter what happened to me. And so that sits with me where I'm kind of sad about it. But I also think she won and I stayed home. And so I'm like, butterfly effect. I also wouldn't want to change anything, Like, what if I was there and I cracked one bad joke the night before and then like threw her whole headspace off?
Totally.
I got to be okay with what it is. But that's definitely something in hindsight where I'm like, don't like let the whole thing consume you to where you can't be a good brother or can't like still show up for the people in your life, But that's how big it feels in the moment. You get in that mode where you're just like, this is everything, and I just didn't make it happen. So yeah, that hurt. That was like and how I dealt with it, I just like typical couple weeks of laying in bed too long and just like kind of being a bit of a piece of shit, and then eventually was like, stood back up and was like, all right, go snowboard again. And then once you start snowboarding again, you get stoked again.
Fucking wisdom with Darcy Sharpe right there. That was awesome. I totally agree though, but there's so many times in this life, and I think the phone only adds to it, that you think that you're in this fictitious movie about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's until you and you zoom out a little bit and you're like, oh, like there's really important people to me around me that might need me.
Yeah. And
even if like going to your dad's birthday, you know what I mean? Like helping your mom with the dishes, even though you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
When you do those little things that aren't for you, sometimes you leave with like, fuck, that made me feel good though.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Like I didn't have that much fun doing dishes with my mom, but afterwards she's like, thank you so much for the good conversation. And you're like, fuck, there's only so many of those. Like that was dope.
100%.
Fists. Okay. I feel like Fist it's a bad rep. A lot of people, there's stickers with people pissing on them and stuff.
Yeah. You got one in here, I think.
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I don't even think I put that one up. But I want to hear it from somebody who is in the contest scene, dialed, a winner, a champion like yourself. Does Fist deserve that reputation, or is it?
Dude, so I'm not the best guy to answer this because I've always been a guy that kind of sits back and I'm just like, whatever it is, I'm still showing up to do this contest. And like, if I get an email where everybody's not going because they want to like protest, I would join them and do that too. I'd be like, sick. Yeah, it's not good. But I also kind of get realistic with like, I'm not going to change anything. You're not going to change anything. Like I remember Chaz Goldemon, he like had this like We Are the Riders thing he started. It was like a big group of us. He's trying to get changes done and all this thing. Nothing happened. Almost a decade later, like there's another rider trying to organize something like that I think like Sven was the head of, and nothing changes. Like they're such a big like moving train, and they know what they can get away with, and they get away with it. I do think they're bad. But I'm just like, I'm not going to change it. And they host snowboard contests that nobody can really find a way to watch. So I don't know. It's like, I was going to say they host snowboard contests, so I'm stoked on them. But that's my biggest criticism, is make it easier for people to watch. Like,
I feel like there's so many people right now that are like jumping at the bit to be like, yo, like you need to stand for what you believe, man. But like, here's my thing. I'm with you. I'm not going to put the energy into something and be the person like waving the flag and start the protest and the petition unless I am so utterly passionate about that exact thing, because it takes so much time and energy. Well, and for someone like yourself who's just like, listen, like we could change the jumps, the formula a little bit, and the judges in a little bit, but like I don't really care. I just want to go to this contest. Like I'm not going to devote my life to this. Whereas like if we were going to do something like super political, like maybe there's like, there's a time and a place to make a big stance, but like maybe a snowboard contest isn't where you want to like put your time and energy into.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it needs like pretty much total reform if it were to be good. Like the little tweaks under the way it is right now, I don't think we're going to get there. And that reform needs a lot of money. And they're like, they care about alpine skiing more than they care about freestyle snowboarding. And it sucks, but that's the way it is. So unless we can find like a major investor that loves watching snowboarding that can like cash out the whole program to make it better, because the way it is right now, like there's 60 spots that get given away to do these contests, and that alone is just like too many people. So then you'd need a better qualifying system to make the quality of the contest better with a less big field. And then the judging, like everybody's always getting mad at the judges, and I again am kind of like, I don't even get mad at them. They're like, they're doing their best. And they're not even paid to be professionals. Like if they were paid to be professionals, I would maybe like want them to be professional. But those guys, like they got like side gigs. They work in the summer. They just come do this because it's a free trip. They get a bit of money and they eat. They get to go to cool locations and hang out with us. That's awesome. But they're not like going home and studying, oh, where did we mess up? How can we do it better? They're not in the off season going to SASFE or coming to Australia, New Zealand, watching the training, being like, oh, what's hard, what's barely being landed versus what's being landed a lot, where's the progression at? Like they don't necessarily fully have their finger on the pulse. Some of them do. You know, I might have a judge be like, hey man, I care a lot, I pay attention a lot. But the bulk of what we see coming out of the booth when we get our scores is they don't really pay attention that much. So yeah, I think that's a tough one. I think the formatting could be better, the judging could be better, but it's not really going to change that much, and unless there's like a burst of money that comes in.
That's just a whole other fucking world that I'm like, I've never been a part of. Like I've always just been like a video part magazine kind of snowboarder.
Yeah.
And when I hear like, I remember Spencer O'Brien back in the day just coming back from those events and be like, Fist is a fucking fuck Fist. And, like, and then Brian O'Brien on the chair, and I'm with fucking Spencer's dad and Spencer and Logan Short, and they're all fucking worked up and losing their mind over this Fist event. And I'm kind of like, who's Fist?
Yeah.
Like Fist to me is so not snowboarding that it's just like Fist doesn't even like register as a snowboard thing to me. I'm like, yeah, they help these events happen so you guys can spin off those big jumps.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, and obviously some things need to change and did need to change more back in Spencer's day when she was mad. Like she was an advocate to make sure like everything became more equal and all that was dialed for her coming out of that generation for the generation that's doing it now. And that's where I kind of look at it now and I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's that bad. They're running snowboard contests and they got equal pay. They do it in good courses, and the things that do need changing are like bigger picture things that like I don't think we're going to change unless we have a new governing body or new money come in.
All right. 2 of your favorite tricks or contest runs that you've ever put down.
Myself, eh? Yeah, I'd say switchback 16 would probably be the trick. I remember the day and like the feeling leaving the hill. Like you were asking me in Japan, like, do you have clip high? I haven't gotten a feeling from a clip yet that felt like landing that switchback 16. So I'm waiting to like, that's where I was kind of telling you, like, where I was like, yeah, maybe like I think I'll get part high because I haven't had a part yet. But so like I've had a okay clip here and there where I'm like, that's cool. But or maybe I'll change. Maybe I'll get a clip in the future where I'm like, Jody, it happened. Like check this thing out. But that feeling was pretty like over the moon. And then run, probably that one you brought up, the second place X Games, first X Games medal run, first time doing that trick and first time linking 214s back to back. So that was like a pretty big one where I'm like, whoa, I can do the big dog runs.
I think that I was more proud of that X Games run for you at the time, but a run that I liked maybe more was the Calgary one where you like start off with a switchback 270.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And then later on you do that gat lip slide 270, like buck from the side. And then you do that fucking back rodeo 7 off the pole jam.
Yeah, that probably is one of my best slope runs.
As a judge, now that I'm a judge for natural selection, in my opinion, that was a very well-rounded run.
Yeah. Thanks.
You know what I mean? You had a little bit of everything in there. The switchback 270 was right in the middle.
Yeah.
Like the perfect amount of slide where you're not tapping it. The gap lip slide 270, when you're at the very end of the lip slide, you like pull up the nose so it's not sagging. Like it was fucking sick.
Dude, thank you. And then I have to say one of my favorite tricks, because this one like meant a lot to me, kind of paying homage to what I looked up to in snowboarding, was my first event at X Games was a big air, because it happened the night before slope and I got invites to both. And my first hit, I did a method. So that's probably like my favorite trick, maybe. That's not like a chucker trick, because I was just like hyped that, still with that being like my childhood dream, showing up to X Games and still like wanting to perform and do well. I took the time out of that 30-minute clock jam session to be like, I'm going to crank a method because I made it to X Games. And this is what snowboarding's about. So that one stands tall in my memory books too.
Was it a good method?
I think that Peter Line said it was sick.
Dog. There you go. If Peter Line said your method's sick, that's like Devin one time. I hate to jump in here, and I know the audience right now is like, dude, you're jumping in too much. But I get fired up too.
Yeah,
Devin Walsh
good.
once said, nice back 180, Jody. 7 springs. And then that was a career highlight for me.
Yeah, exactly. When you like, he didn't say it directly to me, but somebody after told me like, yeah, I was standing next to Peter Line. He was stoked. And I was like, oh, sick. It was worth it.
I feel like I remember that one. I feel like I do. It was like in the middle of a jam.
It was like first hit of a jam.
Yeah.
I think I was the first drop because I was the lowest ranked invite.
So you grew up on the island.
Yeah.
Before you kind of blew up on the scene, which would have roughly been around, let's say, 2014.
All right.
I would say that was like when you would have done well here at a couple contests, probably right when you got on Monster. When did you get on Monster? 2014, 2015?
Yeah, maybe 2013.
2013. Okay. So let's go like 2013 before that date.
Mm-hmm.
What are some riders that really inspired and shaped your snowboarding?
Haldor Helgeson, Torstein Horgemo, Andrew Jeeves. Those ones probably shaped my snowboarding the most. Those three. I can just cut it off there.
3 DC riders. Big
yeah,
DC kid.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, I actually was. I looked up a lot to that big DC badge from those guys. They wore the oversized triple hood, like t-shirt hoodie thing. There's like 5 layers coming out below their butt cheeks. I'm like, oh, how many shirts does he have layered? That was so steezy. Yeah, I love those guys.
Let me get one of your favorite clips, photos, or something of Haldor, one of Torstein and one of Jeeves.
Okay, Haldor would be somewhere, I don't know where the shoot was, but it was a method he did, and it was one, he was on Nike, and it was like the sickest. He was an in-between the bindings grabber on his methods, and I used to do that a bunch because I looked up to him, but now I'm kind of outside the binding. I think looks sicker, but I loved his method. And it's like over a big lake. It's beautiful. I'm sure people listening that know Haldor will know the photo. He's wearing like the red and blue jacket. And I told you about this clip when we passed a boat in Japan, the front blunt 450 on the boat. Front blunt around the elbow, C, down flat, down rail. All right, that's enough with Haldor. I just love him. Jeeves, oh man. The part where he's wearing a lot of jerseys.
Which one? No, both his sandbox parts.
Yeah. He does a pretty insane 50-50 on a wooden, like, I don't even know how many times that thing goes down and flat. But the back 7 that I think I heard him talking maybe on this podcast where it's meant to be a back 5 and he just held and poked the melon even harder. It was like on a ridge top. That back 7 from him, definitely highlight.
That was
even though
I was in a Videograss and a Videograss and who else used that? Oh, Dope 1.
Even
intro.
though I think he messed himself up on it, the dam ollie.
The dam.
Yeah.
The one where he drops into the dam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that footage. The photo is fucked.
Photo is psycho. That's definitely a Jeeves highlight. And then Torstein's pretty easy. It's from his black winter part, front 10 Indy, but at like front side 450, he hits full toe edge while holding Indy on the top of shrubs of a tree that he's airing over, and it sends him into like a front Tody 07 out of it, and it's insane. It's incredible. It's like the sickest clip ever. Like, yes, where I think of those like maneuvers is from looking up to those guys. They were kind of doing it a long time ago, and it would just like sprinkle in and then fade out for a while. But that was the stuff that would really get me going at home. Like if somebody changed their axis midway through the air, you're like, that's a video game move right there. Like you're spinning this way, then all of a sudden you're spinning that way.
you became one of the best slopestyle park riders. You still are. Do you want to become one of the best backcountry riders of all time? And is that like a burning desire inside of you, or do you want to, take some of the pressure off and like see what happens? Or are you pretty like focused to be like?
Yeah, I'd say it's a good question.
What's the approach there? Is it similar to contests? Is it a different energy?
I think it's a different energy, and I think it's a good question, but it's hard to answer because I feel like almost at this point, like I need to prove to myself more that I can do it before I can claim I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like in a sense, because I'm like, if I claim that right now when I haven't like ridden any big mountain stuff or that, like maybe I get up there and I'm just like, nah, this isn't for me, but I think it's going to be for me. I think I'm going to love it. Like I want to charge, and that is the goal one day. But for now, I just want to keep like, progressing, which is like fun to progress with the filming realm because there's so much I haven't done. I don't want to just hit big wedges and stuff. I want to actually like ride some mountains and get gnarly in the mountains. And keep. I'd say the main goal is like keeping people stoked to go snowboarding. Like that's always been like the thing about my job as a professional snowboarder that I cherish the most, is like my whole thing is just like fire people up to snowboard. And therefore, like if it fires me up, it's like a cycle, So just fire people up to shred by getting gnarly.
I like that.
But it would be nice to be one of the best.
I like where your head's at. That was a very well-articulated approach to like, hey, listen, man, I really want to fuck shit up out there, but I just need to make sure that I'm down with fucking shit up on the shit that I'm going to fuck up before like I say that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like you asked, is it a similar approach to contest snowboarding? It's similar in the sense where like it doesn't matter if like this contest gives you like 900 points, that contest gives you 700 points to win, or the judges give you this, the judges give you that. Like none of that changes what you got to go do the next week, what you got to do in the off season, and what you got to do the next season. You're always just going to snowboard your best. So like that's something I noticed I was able to do that helped me stay sane through the contest that I noticed a lot of people don't do. They're just tripping on the judges' scores. They're tripping on how many points they need to make the national team, how many points they need to make world champs, which only takes a smaller field, or this and that. And I would never focus on that stuff. I actually told myself like I wasn't allowed looking at ranking lists. And people would ask like, where are you ranked? And I'd be like, I don't know. Because when I look, then it's like puts a unneeded pressure in my head. Just like the same saying I want to be one of the best backcountry riders in the world or get video part of the year. Like that puts unneeded pressure. I just want to snowboard my absolute, nothing changes about, I want to snowboard my absolute best. And that's the same for contests, same for backcountry. Like I want to go out and do the best I can do. And if that winds me up, like being one of the best, amazing. But that won't change the next year. Like, okay, I got to maintain that. I got to do, it's just like, go out and shred the hardest, go out and shred as good as you can. And then that stuff will follow. So that's kind of how I look at it, is like always just focus on snowboarding as good as you can and nothing else matters.
That's a healthy mindset.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Start geeking on everything else. You like get a bit of head case. I'm sure you see it in the mountains often, like people get in the flow and then they start like getting clips and they start getting more clips and this and that. I think for me and the way I am, it's easier to be like, just go out, snowboard, do your best. And then that kind of will happen, the domino effect of where it'll get better and better and better. Versus if I did have the like in my head every day, like I want to be one of the best in the backcountry now. That's my next thing. Like then I'd just be stressed out every time I go out, like looking at this fun little popper and be like, that's not good enough. Take me to the top of over there and then just ragdoll down the whole thing. Like just, that's just one more point on just focus on shredding and the good stuff will happen.
Well, the backcountry is similar to like riding in the park in the sense where at the beginning of, riding in the park, you want to learn a half cab, and then you want to learn a cab 3, and then you want to learn a cab 5, and then you want to learn a cab 7, and you don't want to skip steps.
Yeah.
And the backcountry is the same. You want to hit those small poppers. You want to learn how to do turns in Japan and stuff. So when you do go to Alaska, you can piece all that together.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of the goal here. Maybe take us through like, what's an approach that you have learned in contest riding, park riding, that you want to extract and continue to have and bring into the backcountry? And maybe what's one thing from contest riding in that world that you want to leave there and you don't want to, bring that into this whole new Darcy in the backcountry?
That's a good question. definitely like kind of, you talked about it earlier, like performance on demand. That'd be something I'd like to bring into the backcountry, because it's nice to be able to just get your shit and pop off when you need to pop off, and be able to relax when you can relax. And with that, like bringing the breathing techniques, like we have some really good people at our national team, and they've taught me a lot on how to like control yourself and be reflective of like, where are you at and where do you perform at best. And so in our short time going to Japan and filming here and there in the past, like I'm not like taking down notes so much, but I've kind of been reflective on like, okay, when I got like that really good clip, or when I was riding my best out there, like I was kind of like on an RPM level like here. So then it's like trying to bring my RPMs to there is the way I look at it, like where you're revving and stuff, and then using breath work to kind of help you get to that RPM spot. Want to take that. That'd be my pull it from the contest realm and over there, because contests, there was often times like you're too excited or you're not excited enough, and you have to like acknowledge that and then put yourself back where you should be. And then what would I leave behind? I mean, I never really like hated anything that much. Like I really, like I said to you about like some people get upset about scores, get upset about this and that. Like I was super hyped on everything. I just wasn't that bummed. Like, I'm trying to think about going to contests and being bummed on stuff. And it's like, I guess I'll leave behind going out in absolute dog shit conditions, riding like ice. I could leave riding ice behind. But other than that, dude, it was all good.
I got to the bottom. I had the worst day ever, and then I bumped into Riff Raff. That photo of you and Riff Raff is so sick,
dude. I know you love it. You're the number one fan of that photo.
Me and Demo, we've just been big Riff Raff fans since like day one. Like he was big on Vine, and like I knew about him just before.
He's so funny
because Victor Simcoe, who's I don't know if he was pro. I think he was AM on Rome for a long time. That's his brother. So that's how we got to know him. But anyways, okay, let me ask you a couple questions here. This little section is presented by K2, one of our sponsors. Thank you for supporting the show. And thank you to the Patreon. I don't say thank you enough to that group. But
no, shout out the Patreon. Shout out the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for supporting the show. Now that we have Airtime TV going on, if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's a new series. It's on YouTube. I've been putting a lot of energy into that. And now that we have that, and I have expenses from filmers like Derek, who's like going places, and he's like, my flight got canceled. Like, what do I do? Can I get a hotel? I'm like, I don't got any money, dude. And then I'm like, well, at least there's some little bit coming in from the Patreon. So thank you so much.
Dude, Airtime TV, just quick note on that. I watched it. It was really good.
Thank you.
I loved it. I was actually incredibly impressed, because YouTube, I feel like snowboarders are sensitive with making like a YouTube video in any type of format. Like they're just like sensitive about that. And that one was really tasteful. Reminded me of an old school snowboard video, had new school relevance, but still like it had no like much cringe factor to it at all. It just felt very organic and sick. Yeah, I liked it.
Thank you, Darcy. That means a lot. Actually, it does, because I'm so busy right now that sometimes you want to quit, but then you don't actually want to. You're just like, the alternative to this feeling that I'm having right now is having the similar feeling not doing anything. You know what I mean? Like if you weren't doing anything, you would be at home like, fuck, I need to do something with my fucking life. And now I'm like, now I'm doing something and I'm so fucking busy doing it, I'm also like, fuck, dude. And I'm like, wait.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Wait, it ain't bad. Yeah. Similar to the X Games vibe or like the contest vibe.
Yeah.
You like kind of reflect on it. You're like, damn, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But again, shout outs to K2. Right now, I'm riding the Alchemist 157. I absolutely love that board for ripping fast powder. It's my favorite. Actually, I've been riding the park. I actually did a mic'd up episode with Craig McMorris, and I have a park edit coming out on that board because I just love that snowboard. I know it's not designed for the park, but I use it for the park anyway. The K2 Alchemist, check it out. All right, we got 10 questions here. It's a little section of the show where, like, when I say blank, then you say whatever the fuck comes to your head.
Did K2 write these questions, or they just presented you?
They're presenting. This is.
Okay.
I thought
say, what, dude? The K2 TM has questions for me.
That'd be sick. No, this is just from me.
Okay, I say what comes to my head.
All right. Number 1, unstoppable.
I thought of a brick.
I was thinking like people,
concrete
snowboarding,
barrier.
anything that comes to mind. But
You
like
said what
a
comes
brick.
to head, and I was drawing blanks, and all I was seeing was like those a brick.
Brock Crouch coming at you.
Yeah. Unstoppable Brock.
Okay. Up next.
Tosh.
Nice.
I'm bad at his last name. Tosh Koss.
He's from like Smithers?
Yeah, he's from Smithers, and he's such
Yeah.
a beauty. Good old Canadian kid. He's got a sled. He's really good in the park, really steezy.
Yeah, I'm a big Tosh fan too.
Yeah,
Shout out to Tosh.
Huge Tosh fan. And his younger brother, Toe. Shout out Big Toe.
Whoa. He's got a younger brother?
Yeah.
I thought Tosh was like 19.
Yeah, he is.
And he's got a younger brother who lives in Whistler that's younger than him.
Yeah.
Damn.
And yeah, I got a good story about Tosh, but we can next question.
Pop.
Solars.
Slam Lord.
Slam Lord, dude. That's kind of harsh. I just thought of who's the guy that did the first double cork on A Dinosaurs Will Die?
Keenan. Filmer.
Keenan Filmer.
Back 5 form step down. You see that ragdoll? You know the clip I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I thought that was one of your questions. I'm like, dude, here it comes, memory time. No, that's exactly what I thought of him. That slam is golden.
Best grabs.
Man, what comes to my head quick is not easy. Danny Davis.
That's a good pick. Board control.
Arthur Longo.
Rail skills.
Lane Weaver.
Robbed.
Robbed. That's a good one. Swimming.
Which contest?
Olympics, slopestyle.
Contest goat.
McMorris.
Who's your favorite female in the contest
Dude,
world right
out
now?
of anything, this whole time, that got my heart going. I get scared when I gotta like access the brain.
Oh, I love that.
My favorite female boarder, Zoe. She's been the goat.
Do you think she's the goat over Jamie?
No, like right now is like theme music's playing, like Jamie's walking up, she's walking up, and like she's about to take her down, but not yet.
Yeah, I thought the same.
But Zoe definitely, obviously, nowadays, it seems like she is.
And Jamie was like one of the best in like 2004, and
Yeah.
she still is. She's just focusing on being a mom because she's a legend, and that's a 20-year. You know, Zoe did come in though and was like, "Hey, what's this backcountry stuff that you guys are doing over here?" And then just wins natural selection, and then is like, "Oh, what are you guys flipping and spinning off these cliffs? Like, I'll join you," and just fucking does a back 10. Like,
She's so good, dude.
yeah, insane.
She's so good.
Okay, let me ask you a little bit of an old head question here, because to me, the holy grail growing up as a kid was, you know, you could get a Trans World checkout, and then maybe one day you get an interview in Snowboarder Mag or Method or whatever, Snowboard Journal. I don't know if they were around at the time.
Yeah.
A cover.
Yeah.
And then you get a section in like a friend's part, and then you get a part, and then you can get like Ender. So like the cover and the article and the Ender or opening video part were like the biggest deal ever. Where do you put those these days? Are they still the biggest deal to somebody? Do followers mean more? Does the Olympics mean more? Like where would you put those things these days?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think everybody's allowed to think of it the way they think of it. Like somebody might think that the cover still is the holy grail of it all. And some contest kid might think it's the Olympics. When I was a kid, I thought it was the X Games. Like, I think it's chill to think it's different things. And I also think it's chill to have it evolve. Like now, I'd say like mine is shifting and churning, but yeah, everybody's got different ones. I definitely don't think it's in the order you listed though for the majority of kids looking up to snowboarding.
It's true, eh?
Yeah, they're probably more thinking about followers. Followers, I think snowboarders are always like a little awkward to talk about the importance that people feel they have, but everybody wants more. Like if they're saying they don't care, they're probably lying, because it's like I saw you like post a story of like something that looked pretty aesthetic the other day.
Yeah.
Like you didn't just snap that and throw it up. You thought about it for your followers to get more.
Kind of like people, kind of like dressing. You know how people are like, I don't really care about like what I look like or what I drive or like, and then you like find out where they live and the vehicle that they drive and then the clothes. You're like, yeah, you give a fuck a lot.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that don't that fully don't fucking care. And I think that those people, it's like, who wants to be around those people? You know what I mean? I want to be around like, caring. Yeah, you know what? Caring the right amount is important.
Yeah.
Like Devin Walsh, like his whole approach was caring about what he looked like.
Yeah.
Then off the snowboard, you know, he was just a relaxed guy. And there was that nice balance that made him Devin fucking Walsh.
Yeah.
But you need the balance. Because if you care 24/7, you're probably exhausting to be around.
Yeah, probably. Sometimes I think I need to like up the levels of caring a little bit just to care a little more.
Really?
I think I'm pretty easygoing about things.
Well, that's dope.
It is dope, but then you don't want to look back on life and be like, oh, did I not care enough about that time in life?
What's one area of your life you would like to give more energy to? Not even necessarily snowboarding.
My clothes I wear. Yeah. I think I just like throw on whatever, and I think I could be doing better there. And then also,
you look great right now.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
That flannel isn't even like kind of a throw-on flannel. Like the fit,
it's nice.
Everything, the material you're wearing. Like I don't know if Hannah dressed you, but like that shit is fucking nice.
Nah, it's just something I threw on.
These old things.
And then also I get a calendar. A little bit more about the organizational things. I get by without a calendar. Totally fine. I don't miss things that often, and I show up on time more often than not, but I think I could up my game with getting a calendar. I kind of was given this year my last year with no calendar. Once I turned 30.
Like the one that you write on the wall, or like
any kind of calendar.
It comes on your phone for free, brother.
Yeah, maybe start using it. yeah.
You know, get a calendar.
I'm going to start using one.
I'm going to use a calendar next year.
Yeah. It's on my calendar. Just that.
It's on my to-do list.
That.
Yeah. You got some funny clothes though. You got the Trevor Andrew. Didn't he spray paint all over your fucking clothes one time? Your car?
I got the full pants and jacket of that still in my closet. It started fading to where you could start to not see it that well, and I was like, I need to rack this. Like I can't just wear this to the ground because it's a pretty legendary outfit. But I also was thinking about that. Like I would never sell it, and I never would want to. But I'm like, dude, a Trevor Andrew spray paint on an Arc'teryx kit. I'm like, this thing is like probably gold in a couple of regions of the world.
Yeah, don't sell that thing.
Yeah. I actually might put it in a safe.
Yeah, that's a good call. He also spray painted your Tesla. Did you put that in a safe?
No, that one I sold.
Did you sell it with his spray paint all over it?
No, so what happened was...
How did that even happen?
It was pandemic time, so everybody was just like, what can I do next?
Like, I'm bored.
Well, what's going to entertain me next?
Who am I?
Yeah, totally. I just was like, oh, this would be sick if I got Trevor to do my car. I think I saw him just doing some art somewhere. So I just sent him a text. I was like, hey, bro, I got a Tesla. Do you want to do some art on it? And then he was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Like, what's the deal with it? And I said I had a wrap on it. So he was like less stressed to mess up because just on the car, maybe he just wanted to know what the deal with it was. And then he was like, well, I can just like digitally do one for you. And then you can print that wrap and then wrap your car in it. I was like, no, like I'm down for you to draw on it. So then he just sent me a list of supplies and was like, go pick this stuff up and come over. And then that's what I did. And then, yeah, he went to town on it. It was pretty sick to watch. It's pretty fun, like seeing his like almost get in the zone mode, and then I'm back there just like pretty nervous. I'm like, what if he does a wrong stroke or something? But he nailed it, dude. That's why he is the artist he is. Such perfect lines drawn it. So sick. I remember being so psyched. It looked amazing. And I would have like drove it until it was dead. I just like coming out of COVID, getting a little bit older, was like, I don't need a second car. So it probably isn't smart financially. Like I should probably like save and like have a house or something rather than a second car. And I think my tires need to get replaced and insurance was up. Anyways, like a big bill for my car was coming up. And I was like, this doesn't really make sense. Like my truck works fine. So then I sold it and I texted him, hey, can I sell it with the wrap on or do you want me to take it off? And then I actually said, hey, do you have somebody that would want to buy it? Because maybe he knew some people. or should I sell it? Or do you want me to take the wrap off? And then he said he knew somebody that would buy it if it was directly on the paint, but since it was on a wrap, kind of like having a snowboard where the sticker's signed, you know, like you can just peel that off and it's not a one of one in a sense. So he's like, somebody would have bought it if it was on the paint, but I'd rather you just take it off and sell it. So then I just waited for a really sunny day, peeled it off, and kind of like salvaged all the like panels with art. So I got a bunch of it in my house still, like my car hood and all kinds of stuff like that. So that's sick. I got some art out of it.
That's super dope.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Bigger fan of his snowboarding though. Holy fuck.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, timeless. There's somebody with pop.
Yeah.
Trevor popped.
Yeah, he does.
He does a switchback 1, cab 5, whatever. Have you seen some of his parts before your time?
Like I watched one for sure. I don't have it in my brain.
There's him doing like a Taipan to fakie on like a cool.
That's a sick grab.
That is. Is that a Taipan?
I think so.
Because he's regular, so yeah.
Dude, I just said Solars when you said pop because when I was working with Joe McAdoo in Whistler Valley Snowboard Club, which Rob also ran, 2 legends, want to shout them out. Joe was a very technical coach. Like he wanted you to know how to do stuff. He would never be like, I really want you to have a double cork. He was like, I want you to have all way 9s, which I really appreciate out of him. And Solars was the guy we'd always reference for pop. He was like the kind of like role model of how to pop good out there. We'd watch like his parts. We'd do all that stuff. So that's why he came to mind right away, because I kind of idolized his pop growing up.
I mean, since I moved to Whistler, it was special to witness live for sure. There's definitely some times that weren't well documented in those early 2000s where like it would be a hip shoot or something, and those photos are just lost. Like you're not finding that shit on the internet. And like Mark Solers pulls up to a hip shoot in like 2005 to 2012. Mark's pop was a pleasure to watch. It was so much higher than everybody else. Every time he would do like an alley-oop or a method or whatever, he would go, and then Charles Reed would go, and you'd be like, that's why you guys are on Burton. Like, because you know, like Burton kids, like when they ride a hip or something, there's an expectation that Burton has and Burton kids put on themselves to like look a certain way.
Yeah, they're very much similar. All the riders very similar.
Yeah, totally.
If you're not following that role, maybe you aren't going to be around for that long. So no doubt they're all similar. They're like, oh, that's what you like. All right. I think they have an amazing team. It's just all, like you said, like similar ways of
they could have
going
had
about
Tommy
snowboarding.
Gesme still on them.
Yeah,
which to me is like, dude, how did you drop that ball?
Yeah, if I started a brand, I'd want Tommy on it for sure.
If you had a brand and you didn't want Tommy on it, fuck your brand.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the reason why you pulled out of weed though?
It was like it's kind of life in general. Like it was the summer of 2019 and a couple things happened in my life. Like a relationship went south, and new team manager at Burton cut my contract by like quite a bit and put me on just hard goods. I was just smoking a bunch of weed as I had been the whole time. And it kind of made me reflect on life. Like, why did I just like mess up these relationships? And I think that the one with Burton might have been just like the new guy just didn't see me as part of the crew, you know? So they just like did that to a couple of people, like just brought them down a little bit. But it still like puts self-reflection on yourself, and it's like something to go through, you know? And then I traveled to, and then I get to the airport to pick up my bags, and Border Patrol comes up to me, and they like start grilling me in a not friendly way. They're like, "Is this your bag?" I'm like, "Yep." And they're like, "All right, come see us when you get your other bag." And then I go pick up my other bag. He comes to me instantly. Can I see your passport? I'm like, "Yeah, you just came up. Like, I'm coming over." He's like, "Show me your passport." Give him my passport. He takes it and then looks at it, whatever, goes through it. He's like, "Come with me." Takes my bags into the back. And then he opens it and he's like, "Reason we pulled you over here today is because we smelled drugs in your bags." And I'm like, "Oh God, like that's weird. I don't touch drugs or do drugs." And he's like, starts asking me all the questions. I'm saying no to everything. He says the dog smelled something. He searches the bag like clean, everything, unfolds every socks, unfolds every boxers, runs everything individually through the scanner. Excuse me. Opens up my suitcase, like guts the suitcase, scans that. Anyways, do this whole process. And then he's like, "All right, you're all good. Have a nice day." And so I go up to my Airbnb. I'm chilling in these shorts, and I put my hand in my pocket, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. There's so many like rocks in this pocket. One falls out of my finger, hits the tile floor, and it doesn't like bounce. It kind of just like thuds. And I'm like, that wasn't a rock. I go pick it up, and it's like a piece of hash. And then it was like, I like go in my pocket, and there's just a bunch of hash in my pocket, like a bunch of little grains. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. Like, that's so sketchy. This just happened to me. Thank God nothing happened, but that's a pretty loose move, you know? And it was like, I think I was wearing those shorts at Squamish Music Festival. Somebody just handed me that while I had been drinking. Didn't really notice anything. Put it in my pocket, forgot about it in my pocket, packed the shorts. And then I was traveling to New Zealand and back to Australia. And then something else like that kind of happened again. And I opened my bag, and it kind of just like smelled a little bit like weed. And I was like, oh man, like this is kind of out of control. Like I could be ruining my career right now if these like things hit me in the wrong way, or if a border patrol checked the wrong pocket or whatever. And this could ruin my career, what I love and what I'm so fortunate to do. So that was like a wake up call. And I was like, obviously I don't have control over my usage or whatever. So then I was just like, I'm stopping. Like, I'm at least taking 6 months off. So I actually called my sister to see if she would, like, you know, be a bit of a support with me. So I called my sister and I say, hey, I just realized that my pot smoking's a little out of control. And I'm like, and I also know that you like to party a lot and drink a lot of booze all the time. Do you want to like not drink anything with me? And I won't smoke anything for the next 6 months. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that with you. So then she got in a pack with me. We made a little pack. She didn't drink. I didn't smoke for 6 months. And then so that was fall of 2019. We go into the season, and then that was the best season of my life. Like, I remember being at contests, hanging with who I usually hang with, and they're all smoking on the deck and like just smoking all the time, like most snowboarders, not most, but lots of snowboarders do. And I remember being like, oh yeah, that doesn't seem like that'd be the best for your performance. Like I was kind of reflecting on it from the other angle, being like, whoa, crazy. And then won X Games, got second at the Rail Jam at that X Games, and then got fourth at US Open. Wish I got on podium so bad. Don't have a podium there, but fourth at US Open. Did well at Dew Tour, went to X Games in Norway and got third in Big Air, which I never thought I'd get a Big Air medal. And then the season wrapped up. And then I remember reflecting on it, kind of like, there's one major difference about that season compared to all my other seasons. It's like, if I don't like pay attention to that, then I'm an idiot. So then ever since then, just the usage went way down, because I was like, I can do this when I'm like free and spare, but when winter comes, I stop and get off it and lock in.
Yeah, I remember being like 23, 24, and I don't know exactly, I don't remember the exact moment, but I remember like the rough time. And I was like, fuck, I don't remember like 4 years of my life.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then I was like,
dude, it makes you so complacent.
But like, I didn't do anything not high. Like we were just baked 24/7.
Yeah.
And then I remember kind of just being like, whoa, that was a blur. And then I was like, you know, at that time, I was going through a little bit of a breakup, and it was the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
A little bit of...
it makes you reflect on life. You're like, huh, maybe I am kind of being a bit of a piece of shit.
You know what though? Like, it took me, like, yes, but I don't feel like everybody does that. And I did do that like later on, but the way that you've talked throughout this whole podcast, it seems to me like that's kind of ingrained in you. You keep being like, I did X and it didn't work out well, so I actually looked at it from an outside perspective, and then I changed X so I could do this. Yeah. And it's like, that's a really good way to navigate life. Like, you constantly are like looking at yourself, looking at the things that you could do better, and taking accountability. And one really cool thing that ties into this whole thing, and we were in fucking Japan together, and you said something along the lines of, I don't want to be average.
Yeah.
I was talking to you about health and going to the gym and taking care of your body. And you said that you had a discussion with your partner, Hannah, and you said something about like, yeah, like it's because I'm not average, because I don't want to be average.
Yeah.
And that sat with me enough that I remembered to bring it up right now. And I was like, that was fucking sick. Like, why do you want to be average? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could float in the middle of this, and I always say this, but if you just float around in this fucking middle world of averageness and you never try anything or do anything and never get out of your comfort zone, there's so much anxiety and stress in that, and I've been in that world, that it does feel better to go somewhere else other than that fucking state.
Yeah, I'd say so, but some people are happy. Some people, for sure.
You
I know
think
one guy
people-
that's like really happy being just like exactly what you're describing.
I think they are for you can have an allotted period of time
Yeah.
in complacentness. I mean, yes, there's going to be some people that are the person that can smoke weed, float around, and just drift through life, which fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even want that person to change. I'm glad they exist.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying there can be some people, because I don't want to seem like I judge it. Do your thing. Like, everybody should just do what they want to do.
If you kind of like speak to what's best for you, and you're speaking to an audience, and we're on a fucking podcast right now.
Yeah.
Some people are like, well, brother, I get stoned every day and I'm happy as fuck, and I don't do anything.
And I watch every episode of your podcast, and I'm done.
and I don't listen anymore, and fuck you.
No, exactly. I want it. That's what I was thinking of. I'm like, fuck, this could sound a little like harsh, but that's what works for us and what we get stoked on, which is good. And I think that some people, like you said, wish they could get stoked on that, and they don't. And those people, they should as well. But the people that are hyped on doing what they do, all good.
I feel like a 5-year period is a good period to do what you're doing and then change it up. Because I feel like everybody, when you do something for around that time, you get a little fucking bored. You know what I mean? At least I do. I feel like that's a good period to like dive into something, and at least at the 5-year marker, like check in. If you've been working at a job for 10 years and I feel like a lot of my friends, family, my girlfriend at one point, or my now wife, she was working somewhere for a really long time, and it was just like one day she's like, I needed to even check in with her to be like, do you want to keep working here,
is this
really?
stoking
and
you
she's
out?
like, well, I don't know, it's just kind of like easy, and it's there, and it's like, I don't really like the person, but I'm with them because it's easy, and they live here and I live here, and it's cheaper on rent. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to live my life like that.
Yeah, that's so classic. That's so classic. But no, definitely always like, I just don't want to compare myself to anybody. Like, it's whether it's average or not average, I feel like everybody's just individuals, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be average either, because I think that I was average for a lot of my life, and I put in an average amount of work, and I thought about certain things in an average sense.
Yeah.
And I got average in return.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I kept being like, why am I not getting more? It was like to speak to snowboarding, it was like 2007, and it was like me and some of my best friends who were just happened to be some of the best snowboarders I've ever ridden with. And I wouldn't say we were complaining, but I do remember light conversations about like, why don't we get more opportunity? Like, why aren't you getting more budget? Like, because these were some of the best snowboarders I'd seen ride at the time.
Yeah.
But like, what else is going to fuel that other than the riding on the hill that nobody is seeing? Because you're not filming, you're not going the extra mile, you're not writing emails, you're not sending out that footage, you're not going to any events. And so like, you're doing stuff to only a certain ceiling, and you don't want to go above that. But the people who really make it, or the people who make it, go above that ceiling and they push through it. There are a couple people who just fucking luck out their whole life, and they just keep like, I don't know, I just won the lottery and I'm a pro snowboarder and I'm just here and I did nothing. Well, everybody else most likely worked extremely hard to get where they are.
Well, that's super common that people are like, oh, I'll do that more if I get paid more. Or I'll do that if I got that. Exactly. Not a lot of people reverse it, where it's like, I'm going to go do more and then hopefully I get paid more after that, or this and that.
There's not a lot of people who are willing to put in the work for free and then think of the outcome afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. That's a difficult thing for people to do.
It's a very difficult thing to do, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. And I think that's another thing why, like, when you asked what I want to leave behind in contest snowboarding or whatever, why I'm not bummed is like, dude, I saw that a lot. Like, people would be like, agents suck. Like, my agent sucks. He's not getting this. Like, think about how big we are. Think about like my following. Think about this. Think about that result I got. Like, and he can't even bring me this deal or that. Like, there was a lot of complaining on that front that I would notice. And I'm just like, kind of like mind blown. I'm like, you could probably do a little better. And like, you could do more. And also like, snowboarding doesn't owe you shit. Like, like your agent isn't the problem here. You go switch to another agent, the same thing's going to happen. Like and that's a lot of people. I think they just focus on complaining, and then they also are never like happy with things. But yeah, a lot of kids think, not even just kids, people in general, I feel like think snowboarding like should give them something after they give something to it, where it's like, that's like not the best mentality probably, because that's why it's good to love snowboarding. Because if you love snowboarding, then you're just doing it because you love snowboarding, and you'll keep caring for it no matter how it treats you back. And that's kind of like, yeah, that's some shit to live by, I think, is like put in love for snowboarding and don't expect anything back. And then if something comes back, that's good. But if it doesn't, like, it doesn't owe you that.
I love that. Like, give with the expectation of getting nothing in return. It's like the best quality to have in a relationship. Like, to give your partner something and then not expect something. Yeah.
And my parents struggle with that with me, because I'm often like I said, like 15 years old, 16 years old, snowboarding started giving me traveling, started giving me the ability to not have to work and all that stuff. And since then, I've just been like on a moon ride, so stoked. And like I mentioned the pay cut from Burton, or if something doesn't work out here, and my parents will come at me like, why is that happening? Why is this happening? Like, oh, well, is your agent doing this, that, and this? And I kind of am always hitting them with like, oh, it's all good. Like, it's all good. And I think they struggle with that. They're like, what do you mean it's all good? And I'm like, well, like things will work out or whatever. I just never would get upset, because I'm like, look at the life I'm living. This is so sick. Like, I can't be that mad. Like if something doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Something will work out in the future. And that boils back down to all I got to do is keep snowboarding my best. And like, if keep snowboarding my best gets me things, that's awesome. And then the day it doesn't get me things is the day I'm not a pro snowboarder anymore. It's like, I'm all good with this journey. It's been epic.
Yeah, most likely whatever you're dealing with isn't that bad. And then whatever you're dealing with that is stressful, the reason why it's probably stressful is because you're not like facing it like right on. You know what I mean? So like, let's say if you're getting let go by Burton, you get let go of your job. It's like, okay, well then digest that and then be like, what are the steps I can take to alleviate that stress? So if you just lost, a big portion of your income, you can look at like, do I need the Tesla?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Like, do I need to drive to work? No, I could bus.
Yeah.
Maybe getting a coffee in the morning at the local coffee shop and getting on the bus wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
Listen to a podcast on the way to work, hang out with some common folk would be fucking dope.
Yeah.
Like it's never that bad. You just like, I think humans are like so hardwired to be scared of the badness. Yeah. But when the badness happens and you give that a couple days, 5th day in, they're like, fuck it, I take the bus. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Go to Tim Hortons every morning, smash a double. Fucking is great.
Perspective, man.
Everybody
needs perspective.
Most likely you have a hot shower, a decent home, and you have a big screen TV.
Yeah, you're pretty dialed.
Like the poorest of poor are living pretty good lives right now.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Dude, when I hurt my knee, just a quick note on that perspective, I actually was like so bored. This was like fall of 2020. Yeah, fall of 2020 is when my knee was out. Was it? Around then. And I was so bored. And all my friends were working delivery in Whistler. I was like, you guys think you could get me a job? And I worked delivery just because I was like, I want to see what this is like. Like, all my homies are doing this job. I should try it out. And I did it for a little bit. And it was not that fun. But I was driving around. That was kind of sick. I got to know the Whistler neighborhood way more. That was pretty sick. And then I also like changed their tipping format. People are going to hate this because people hate how outrageous tips are these days. But I remember calling the like boss of, it was called Whistler Dine-In. And I'm like, hey man, like I just noticed, I looked on your website, like the max tip is 25%. What's up with that? You should put like 40% for if this person's really rich and wants to hook it up. Like you're setting a cap on my tip. And leave it to the guy who wasn't working there, didn't need it, to be like, hey, these guys should maybe tip us more. But I'm okay with a small tip too. I just thought like when it's blizzard, like sometimes the weather's bad and you're like driving food to people to like their $10 million mansions. So it's like it couldn't hurt to give them the option.
Have you seen the movie Zoolander?
I have, but not recently.
When he goes down into like the coal mine, I think I have the black lung pop. You were down there for one day. Yeah, that's you.
That was totally me.
Then I realized I'm really, really good looking. I saw a reflection of myself in a spoon.
Yeah, that was pretty funny times. But I feel like that's so classic. You get injured and you're like, who am I? What do I do? What's my thing? I'm like, I guess I'll deliver food.
the tipping culture has gotten massive. You said you want to bump it to 40. I say fuck you.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm seeing
Everybody just said fuck you.
I'm seeing 25 like it was like it's just commonplace now at a cafe. I'm like, hey, I'll have a drip coffee, and the fucking person throws the cup at me and is like, go fill it yourself and put your own cream and sugar in this, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm saying that as in that's their vibe too.
Yeah.
They like give you the cup like you're annoying, and then the tip option's there, and you're both looking at it, and they're like, you gonna hit that 25? And you're like, bro, you gave me a coffee cup. You haven't even said hello, good morning, anything. And then I'm gonna go make my own coffee.
No, I hate the tipping culture fully. I just was on the other end of it, and it was the snowstorm effect. It was really the snowstorm effect.
What's up with the 40%, Darce?
Dude, it was the snowstorm effect, and the going to $10 million houses that were ordering like $200 worth of food. I'm like, they probably wouldn't mind giving me $50 for this, and they can't. That was it. It's not that I wanted everybody to tip more. I'm like, if I'm delivering to a local or a normal place, like hit me with the 10, 15%. I didn't care there. It was just to give the option to the super rich if they felt like it. But no, I agree. Tipping's ridiculous. On like the gas station will ask you for a tip these days. And it's you do it yourself.
Oh man, do I ever have a pet peeve right now. So the other day I'm at the gas station. I walk out and I got like a small bag of trash I'm taking out of my truck.
Yeah.
But I think I'm throwing out an apple core, an orange peel, probably like 3 coffee cups, and some other like light trash.
Yeah. Truck trash.
Yeah. I go to that gas station all the time. They've made bank off of me over the last 20 years. Go there with my truck and sled. I'm throwing out the fucking trash, and this guy walks out, and he's like, you can't throw that much trash in there. And I'm like, I get if you go to a gas station with like your household trash. But if I'm throwing out 7 to 9 items from driving around my truck, and I'm just doing my regular fill up, dude.
So you and Green Lake Station got some beef.
No, Green Lake's goated, dude.
Okay,
this is South.
Okay, yeah.
This is the Husky. And he's looking at me like I just came and unloaded like my household trash. And I was like, bro, I get why you only leave 2 inches of the trash can so people don't throw out a bunch of shit like an asshole. I'm not being an asshole. I'm being an everyday citizen who's throwing out their trash, and I'm having a shitty morning because the other guy just wanted to charge me 25% of my coffee. Fuck off.
Yeah, that's where we live in.
Sorry, I kind of
I like the tangent.
Right there. Sorry. So Darcy, how many tricks have you done this year? Okay, so you're not smoking weed. You're a big winner. Your health, you take that very serious. Was there an injury or an event that made you take that super serious? Because you're absolutely shredded. I see you in the gym all the time. You do all sorts of crazy maneuvers, and I can see that homie's focused.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Health. I think it was kind of a slow, just like started caring about it a bit. Tyler, we were good friends when we were on the national team. He started dating Jamie pretty young. And then Jamie was a big influence on that too, because she's like got a little more hippie, organic food vibe to her. So like picking up little pieces from different athletes I saw was motivating, and it just made sense. I was like, well, put the best fuel in and then you'll get the best results out. So that made a lot of sense. And then when I actually broke that ankle, after that, I noticed just like in terms of like health in drinking side of things, like because in Japan, you notice like I don't have casual beers or anything like that. Like I like having beers and drinking when it's like a night to do that, but I don't like just do them casually with dinners and stuff. And it's because my ankle would always swell up and get super sore after like a night of partying. So pretty much like my program on tour went from being like party hard for the nights after the contest and then go to the next contest to like choosing my moments like wisely, because it would just make my ankle super stiff and swollen. So I think that made me have to take it seriously. And yeah, that's like all I can really reflect on. Just intuitively eat good food makes sense to me. I remember one cafe I walked into, not even cafe, like a little supermart in Hawaii. Everybody's like rolling with their shirts off. That's normal. I wasn't like doing it out of place like I do so often. I walk in, tarps off, go get some food. And then the guy checking me out, he goes like, hey bro, what's your macro? I was like, what's my what? And he's like, what's your macro? And I asked him again, like, what's my what? He's like, your macro. I was like, sorry, I don't know what you're saying. I never had heard that word before.
I haven't. What's macro?
It's like something that people that are like fitness people, like it's like their percentages of food that they like. I still barely know. Like it's the amount of protein, the amount of carbs, it's your split of nutrition. I think that's your macro. And I fully just had no clue what he was talking about. And then I told him at the end, I'm like, yeah, no, I just kind of eat whatever, like make sure I get enough protein in. Like I know that's important. And then he's like, the intuitive diet. And then, since then I've always gone with that. I just got an intuitive diet of eating what seems good.
Do you have a routine when you're home that you kind of stick to? Are there some things that you like to avoid?
A lot of red meat. That's in the routine. And then a smoothie with a lot of vegetables in it every morning. And that's kind of the only routine things. And then avoid whey protein. That's bad for you. Yeah, it makes me a little inflamed.
Really?
Yeah, one time I did this, like I was on the national team, my ankle wasn't getting better forever, and I told the guy who's like head of performance, I was like, I heard of this athlete that got this testing done, where it was like this super extensive testing tells you everything, like how it inflames your body. I was like, are we really the top of the pack of a national team if we don't have that testing going on? Like my ankle's been sore for a year and a half now. I still get swollen. Like, can I not get this test? And then so he actually outsourced a girl in Vancouver, Dr. Aubrey Shannon, who's like the sickest doctor ever. If you're in Van, Friday Health, they take care of you. Like any needs you want, they'll just like sort you out. PRP, IVs, this testing I'm talking about. And so I was like, urine, spit, and blood. And then she would get like hundreds of pages of raw data. And then she like formulated that into like a 25-page summary on my body without anything to do with my brain, obviously, but everything just to do with like my body as is, you know? And so that taught me a lot of things about my body, that whey protein doesn't work. That was pretty much the only red flag. Whey protein and green beans, funny enough.
So you peed in a cup, you got blood work done, and a spit. And then with that like little trio, she probably goes back to her lab, does one of those whirly bird things with that shit, and then comes back and tells you what you're... Are you allergic to these things?
She sent it to like random high-tech labs and then got raw data back. And then so what she did was like take the raw data and make it readable for me. Not allergic, it just makes me more inflamed. Like it just was showing you what makes you inflamed. And it was funny, after I did that, a couple other athletes on the team started like to be like, oh, I want that too. So Spencer got it done, Mikey Cicerelli got it done. And when Mikey got his back, she told him like, oh, your liver is really good at dealing with beer. That was like the worst thing to tell him because he loves drinking casual beers. I remember that was so funny, him coming back to the team like, what's your big takeaway, Mike? Like, oh, I'm pretty all good to drink casual beers.
Got a green light on the liquor.
Yeah. But one of the things that was like really cool doing that was like, she told me like about the food stuff. Obviously that helps take away my inflammation and stuff. Told me what diet works best for me, like the Mediterranean diet, which I follow like as best as I can. I don't really follow it.
What's the Mediterranean diet? Just is it Greek?
Leafy greens, red meat. And I don't know what else.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. I love that stuff already. The intuitive diet was working. But so then she starts going like, and you're like susceptible to like, pretty much like put simply, you like drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And I'm just like, what? And she's like, your brain just like depletes dopamine super fast. And so that would make up for like why you have like really hard points of like you can go really hard, but then why you need to recharge really hard, because you just drain your dopamine and your body wants it so badly, and then you drain it and then you feel low. So she like gave me nutrition advice and supplements that could help kind of level the dopamine out in my brain. But it was kind of neat to see from a perspective of like genetics, because all of a sudden I'm like able to have more sympathy on myself for any type of like lack of showing up as a person, to kind of be like, this boils down to my genes. Like, it's not even my fault. Like,
hey, listen, mom, dad, girlfriend, friends, I have a really good scapegoat here.
Yeah.
I'm depleted.
Totally. And she brought it back. Like, don't be ashamed. This probably means like way back in the day, you were like a hunter and gatherer. So you like needed to feel like you needed to feel like you wanted to feel something, so you could go out for the hunt the next day after you'd like get something. Like you'd go bring back a deer to your village, and like that didn't feel good enough. You wanted to go get another deer, and then you wanted to go get another one. And so she was kind of like brought it back to historic times, being like, if your dopamine drains that quick, that's like what role you would have played back in the day. And it makes sense to why you like are so eager to chase like these highs in life because your dopamine disappears and you want that hit again. So that was pretty cool to do. That was really cool to do.
If I was in an ancient tribe, I would want you in my tribe. Very much so.
I would want you in my tribe too. You need people to make you laugh as well.
Oh man, yeah, you'd be a good tribe.
And do all the other good things you're good at.
100%. What does a successful life look like to Darcy Sharpe?
It's a loaded question, but I'll keep it simple. The ability to travel from a good surf wave in the tropics and to a good mountain to snowboard on for the rest of my life with family and friends that love me. It's as simple as that.
Well put. What's your roadmap to getting there from this point?
Oh man, it's hard. As everybody knows, everything's so expensive, and like that's a pretty bougie lifestyle. I made it sound simple, but that's pretty bougie. But I got some friends in Costa Rica, so that side of it's a little bit cheaper out there. You can like build a little home there for like $200K on some nice land. And then you got to have some sort of passive income that can fund the flights and the lifestyle of just like enjoying your time. Whether that's from like dividend stocks or you own an apartment around here that gives you some income. And then yeah, that's the hardest part is then having a house here. Still figuring that out. Save money, put money aside.
But it's hard in this day and age to know where one should put their money. Like if you go onto the internet and you create your echo chamber, like let's say you're in your early 20s and you're like, I made $5,000 and I want to save it, which you should, because if a 40-year-old saves that save money, it's going to be, you know what I mean? Totally. The compound world is fucking real. So start saving when you're young.
Yeah, but then you got to not touch it, which is hard for
But then you're like, what do you do with it? Like, you can either, like, you're like, I'm going to buy, my dad's really into stocks. I'm going to go into the stock market. That's historically, done pretty well. Well, then somebody else is going to be like, well, historically, you should put it into real estate. And then somebody else is going to be like, man, the real history is in fucking gold. And then other people are going to be like, gold's useless. And then people are going to be like, we're moving into the digital world. You should put it into crypto. Buy Bitcoin. And other people, it's not Bitcoin, it's Ethereum. And then other people are like, both of those are done. It's Tron coin. And you're like, oh my god.
And then majority of people will be like, and then no matter what you do, you still won't afford a house.
And you still won't be happy unless you're happy right now. So happiness is within.
Exactly. 100%. No, it is really hard. And it is discouraging, I think, for our generation. You're like, how?
There's too much information.
Yeah.
If you're a 70s kid and you want to learn about finance, you'd be like, I'm going to go buy a book on like whatever that guy Lynch's name. And then you would just go pick up this. There'd be 5 different books at your local library. You'd grab one of them, read it, and then be like, you're going to buy some stocks. And you're like, okay. And then you read this book and you know what to do. But now if you go into the Google search bar, depending what your own algorithm is personally, it's going to give you a different outlay of what you should invest in and what you should do with your money than you.
Yeah.
Or your mom or the guy down the street, which is wild.
Yeah. Well, I'd say if you're going in the Google search bar, you're like ahead of some people. So many people don't even think it's worth it. Like, no joke. They're like, saving won't do anything for me. I don't make enough. Where it's like, no, like $200 a month will help, or $100 or $50, $20, anything. Start.
I mean, it helps even if it's $20, as low as you said, because you would get in the habit of saving.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is better than not having a habit of that.
Yeah. And I we hang out with a lot of old heads, and we have our friends that did buy real estate or didn't, and it's like their lives are drastically different. So it's important to at least aim towards something.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of people who are like, it's 2000. I remember it's like 2008, or no, before. Yeah, around 2008, maybe 2007. My dad comes up here. He's like, I see all you guys are living together. Maybe I'll like stretch myself and I'll buy like a house out here, and then you guys can rent it off me. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Like, sure. Yeah. We went to the bank. It was that we went and looked at the place, went to the bank, checked out this one place. And I feel like it was in the like, it was maybe $50,000 to like $100,000 more than he wanted to spend. Now that place is worth like $4.6 million. So and it was insane. Like 800 grand back then, or 600 grand or something like that. And you're like, whoa. But then trying to replicate that in our time is problematic when you're like, well, everybody who bought in Whistler 15 years ago made millions. And if you're trying to replicate that right now, it's like, you might be fucked.
Yeah, you might be. But
maybe not.
Maybe not. I don't know if people care about finance on
Yeah,
this podcast.
yeah, totally. Finance. This is finance advice by two
I love
snowboarders who are.
or finance though.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Just to the point where when you were driving around in Japan, there you had one of your earbuds clocked into your dome.
Yeah.
And you're listening to like we're getting up in the morning. You're listening to finance stuff. Like you're into it.
Yeah, I love it. It's super fun. Well, also I'm like, yeah, I got to figure it out somehow. So I want to at least be best educated. And you like hear about like the financial advisors and all this getting like 9% a year. And you're like, okay, even if I made like so much money and was getting 9% a year on saving half of it, wouldn't be enough to buy a house here. So it's like, you got to find a way to beat what the market's doing. So got to pay attention, try to do that.
I always liked, depending on your age, is how much you should allocate to high risk.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in your 20s, save maybe 50%, 60%, but then do 50% of that into the crazy crypto world.
Yeah.
And just see what fucking happens.
Yeah.
Because you can bounce back. You don't got kids yet. You don't got a mortgage. Once you throw kids in the mix and you got a mortgage and shit kind of changes, that world looks a lot different. Then you're like, okay,
Dude.
I want the 5% a year, and I don't want to stomach losing a fucking 10 grand.
Yeah, but crypto just chews people up, dude. Everybody goes there and loses all their money. They're like, oh, the peanut coin seems amazing. And then they just lose all their money.
Yeah,
And it's
totally.
like, well, maybe buy something like that's not just based on some like squirrel that got killed last week or something. But people get it twisted. I think there is some good stuff in there though.
Airtime token dropping soon.
Yeah, not financial advice.
It's gonna be that the Hawk Tua coin. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, of course.
Totally. Yeah.
Can't not if you're on the internet.
Yeah, she's like, I'm a babe. I became famous because I said spit on that thing, and I'm gonna start a coin, and I'm going to jail or something.
I was talking with Hannah about that yesterday, and she's like, she didn't really scam people. I'm like, no, that was like by definition a scam. She's like, yeah, but like you're buying a coin that's like says like based on some girl spitting on that thing. Like, what do you expect? I'm like, I agree with you, but it still was a scam.
So
like,
that doesn't matter.
They're idiots that got scammed, but they still got scammed.
Totally. And you make rules and regulations for the stupidest people in society. That's the reason why we have a law that says thou shalt not kill. Because if we didn't have that, people would be like, well, it's fair game. I can shoot you.
Yeah,
it's like,
over nothing.
Moving along here, worst injury you've had on a snowboard.
Dude, that's hard to answer because I know there's the answer of the worst injury, but I think concussions always like take the cake because you can't play around with the brain. And when that thing's hurt, it sucks and it's traumatizing. And you have like only so many, there's like an verse, like I could break my arm 8 times in the next 4 years and keep pushing. Versus like you do that to your head, you're going to have to call it eventually. So I hate the concussions I've had. Those like one has been pretty bad. My first time trying a triple cork front side, no helmet on, splatted to my side and like went like couldn't remember anything for like a good 12 hours. And then that took like 3 months to recover from. And that one sucked because then whenever you bump your head, you're scared about bumping your head. But the worst physical, like more like bones and limbs injury I've ever had was when I was 16 at the launch. I was hitting like a huge, like snowboarder mag type jump. And it was like massive gap, the type of ones where they take like the photos with the cat sitting behind the takeoff and the cat's like small compared to the top of the takeoff. And hitting that thing was having the time of my life, like so much airtime. It was so fun. I remember being so fired up. And then I'm like, I'm going to go do a really ill switchback 5 on this thing. And I go and switch, and it had rained the night before. So I was like on the edge of being good enough conditions to really hit a jump that big. And I went through like throughout the day as I was heating up, there's kind of a little puddle in the flat bottom going towards the takeoff. And you know that feeling when you hit water, kind of slows you down real quick. So I'm going switch. I get slowed down real quick. And last second, I'm like, this isn't the speed. And the jump's so huge that you do not want to deck this thing. So I'm like, I'm pull and shoot. Go to switch toe edge, stop. And as soon as I get on my toes, I kind of hit a bit of chatter and slip out. And then slip out onto my stomach. And then I'm like, trying to dig my toe edge in. It's chattering up the takeoff. I remember my fingers are like trying to claw into the takeoff. And it's like the biggest jump ever. So I was ripping into it. So I'm still going fast. And last thing I remember is my fingers trying to dig in and then just going airborne. And then I go lights out.
Face first.
On my stomach. Yeah. And then I go fully like wake back up to like that. I can't breathe at all. And there's like Mikey's over me. 2 ski patrollers are over me asking me if I'm okay. I can't speak or say anything. And then after probably like a minute, maybe even more, I catch a breath back. It turns out my lung was collapsed. So like properly couldn't get air into that thing. And then get brought out. They try to like take me out in an ambulance, but the bumps, I'm like screaming my head off from pain. I'm laying on a backboard and the points of contact are like your low back where your hips kind of touch if you're laying on the floor. And then where like the back of your ribs touch. And my ribs were broken down the back where they went into my lung. And then my pelvis was broken in 3 spots right where it was like on the wooden board I was laying on. So I was like screaming in pain. So then they like called it off. They're like, we can't drive out of here. We got to call a heli. So then they called the heli, airlift me out, and then bring me to the hospital. And it was like 3 days in the hospital. And then my mother, who's a saint, flew out to the East Coast. This was in Pennsylvania. And then drove me back to Vancouver Island, which was like a 6-day drive with like an angry, pissed off 16-year-old injured kid. And so shouts out to Mama Sharpe for that one, because that was like that was traumatizing for her. She went and like did like a pilgrimage in Europe after that. I think she needed detox, like, because I was angry, I was really hurt and hurting, and like super high on drugs. It's like 3 things that just like suck to see your child like doing, you know. Like those are like 3 things you don't want your kid doing: being angry, being hurt, and being really high. Yeah, that was wild. But that was definitely worst injury.
Yeah, getting injured at like one of those events like the launch or Super Park or what are they doing now? The stomping grounds or something.
Yeah.
And you're the young kid trying to prove yourself. The anger, like,
yeah.
I mean, snowboarders already get so angry based on their performance. Like if you film and you don't do well, you get angry.
Yeah.
Like whether it's in the streets or in the backcountry or you're at a contest, like you don't show
or
up.
Or with your buddy on an iPhone in the park. Like
it does suck.
Everybody just gets a little irked.
The fury that builds that, you're like, I'm better than that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, so that one was wild.
You just go through all the things you could have done differently. You're like, I should have known the puddle was there.
Dude, well, what was crazy was I had a nightmare the night before, and then I had this, that's like my only superstition, because I had a bad nightmare the night before that like involved like sexual assault on me and stuff, like weird stuff. And then I had another dream like that before my other worst injury of my life. So now if I have like a bad nightmare, which I don't have very often at all, if I have one, I'm calling that day off snowboarding. And one time recently I had it before a contest and I had to push through it. And I was like scared going out that day. I was like, don't happen to me again. Like, don't let it happen. But part of that dream was that I was naked and unable to move, like drugged up by this old woman that was like keeping me captive in her house. And then like finally and she kept putting patches on my neck to like drug me out again. And then people would come in and like do things to me. And then it was a brutal dream. And then I stand up finally.
That sounds brutal.
It was so insane. I stand up finally being like, I need to escape. And I look in the mirror and I'm like aged. And I'm like, how long have I been here? And she's like, 9 years. And then I woke up out of the panic I felt of like how terrible that was. And then, so that was the night before this injury. And then next thing you know, I'm in the hospital, butt ass naked, like on my back, unable to move. They're putting patches on me and shit. And I had a little moment of like a panic attack of like, is this real? Like, what is going on with my brain right now? Like, cause I was almost in the same incident other than like the weird stuff happening. Like these doctors were helping me, but I still was butt ass naked in a room on my back, unable to move with patches. Like when that patch got put on me, it felt like it got put in the exact same spot as my dream. I was just like, what is going on? That was trippy, man.
Holy fuck.
And then last note on that, on the road trip home, I was in so much pain in the passenger seat and I was getting so frustrated that I like told my mom to pull over. She pulled over and I'm like on the side of the road with my little like granny cart walking down the side of the freeway. She's like in the car crying, just watching me because like I needed to lay off some steam and just go for a walk. And yeah, I think that was really hard on her, honestly. Like bless her heart. That would have been brutal.
Who from the launch made it? Like from that time, who's still around? Any notable names?
Yeah, like Gabe Ferg, Red Gerard, Brock Crouch. Like those were the dogs at that time. Mikey Cicerelli. Past that, I'm sure some like more like rail kids, because at that time I didn't know everybody yet. And there was a big like division of the launch that were like just hanging at the rail gardens that maybe I haven't met yet at that time in my career. Like I bet you like Benny Milan was somewhere over there like doing some crazy cab 2 pretzel 2 or something that I didn't see him. So I feel like it was a good platform for kids to like come out and show what they got and get hooked up to go on a trip or something like that.
For that bail and your injuries and that crazy dream of the violation.
Yeah,
we have a
perfect.
Scandinavian bath pass for you.
Meditation
We have a
and
meditation.
body rehab.
Have you been before?
I have. I love that place, dude.
What's your favorite thing about it? Why do you love it?
Well, because actually it ties right back to this injury that when my hips were fractured in 3 spots, the only pain relief I'd get was ice bath in them. Like, and I didn't like taking the drugs so much. Like I had a episode after that, like 2 weeks after taking, I got it prescribed in America too. So they were just like, yeah, just pop these every 4 hours anytime you're uncomfortable and have a good day. They didn't really tell me like you're taking some heavy drugs, like morphine extended release and then codeine every 4 hours at a pretty high dose. And then, so then I'm finally like 2 weeks is up and I'm like, okay, I'm up, like I'm done taking them. So I just put them to the side and I had like full withdrawals, man. Like crying over breakfast over nothing. Like at one point going back to my pills being like, I want them. And then being like, I shouldn't want these and like throwing them. And then I got my molars removed like months later. And I like, while I was half in it, I was like, can I take my morphine? And the guy's like, your Tylenol will be enough. I'm like, can I take my morphine? Like kept asking while I was in that like dazed state. And my dad said like, when we got home, he went and found it and like flushed it down the toilet. He's like, you don't want that. That was crazy. But so ice was the only thing that helped once I got off those drugs. So I got a heavy icing routine in me from 16. I realized that makes my body feel really good. And so I always ice in the glacier rivers around here and in the lakes. And then in the winter, that's just a little too like burly, man, to go down to the lakes and rivers without a hot tub nearby. So I go to Scandinavia Spa and then I get the hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. That's what I like about it. Having a hot tub right next to a cold tub.
Nice. That's your spa pass right over there.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to head there right after this.
Nice.
Stoked.
All right. Well, here's kind of a closing zone. It's presented by Skull Candy. You can grab a pair of those earphones. I know that you like to listen to your crypto news and your stock news, and you like to listen to Fred again.
I like to buy a pair, love them, and then misplace them, and then buy another pair. That's my program.
Ooh, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Misplacing.
I need to get the danger straps, like Craig's old company for sunglasses.
Shout out to danger
He
straps.
needs to bring those and put them around headphones.
Well, the Dime or the Rail, you can use either. They're Bluetooth, and they're absolutely top-of-the-line headphones, and they rule, and Skull Candy supports the shit out of snowboarding. Thank you, Skull Candy. All right, best style currently and back in the day.
Ooh. Back in the day, not that far back in the day, but Nicholas Mueller. I love his style. He's a goat. But not the goat, but he's a goat. Today, I go Renee. I like Renee's style. It's loose. I like loose style, and I like people that are different. He's different.
Did social media ruin snowboarding?
No, snowboarding's still fine.
I like that answer. Something you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger.
Oh man, that's a good question, and it's hard to answer. Can you tell me something you know now that you wish you knew?
Something. Oh, well, I've never. Well. Okay. I wish I listened to my friend who was greening out in a garage talking about this electronic money called Bitcoin in 2013 or something. Curtis being like, dude, there's this thing called Bitcoin. It's going to take over the world. And I was like, my friend who's super high right now needs to stop talking about internet money.
Yeah.
We got a couple babes over and your internet money is ruining the vibes.
Dude, you probably would have bought some, lost it, drove yourself insane, then been like, oh, now it's too expensive. Not bought it, then drove yourself more insane because it got more expensive.
Well, there's a story to that. So Curtis, my friend who was telling us to buy it, bought it.
Yeah.
Bought a bunch way back.
Yeah.
2014, 2013,
Yeah,
like
for like
at the
dollars.
beginning. I think it was in the just past the dollars zone.
Wow.
And he left it all on an exchange in Canada called Quadriga. And Quadriga was the first exchange in Canada that you could hold your crypto on, and he put it all on there, had full faith in it. The guy who owned it died, I believe in Europe somewhere, of a Crohn's flare-up, and nobody ever found the body. Nobody's ever found him.
Sketchy.
Yeah, just ghosted with all the money.
Badly. Do you have more on that? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure Kurt's kind of bummed. I don't know. I think that I'm
sure he's
happier
super
being
bummed.
like, hey, you shouldn't have got so stoned and we should hang out with the girls, rather than the guy who actually bought all that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's like kind of having
hurt.
the lottery ticket and then being like, oh, it blew out the car window and it was the winning ticket.
That's brutal. All right. Thank you for that story. It made me think that just to tell yourself that you don't need everybody's approval and that the right people are going to love you for you. And I still struggle with that, but that's like an important one as a kid, especially like everybody gets so self-conscious coming into an industry from a place that's not like in the circle of where industries are. I feel like I was always like stressing a little bit to be comfortable being who I am. And I think that I would have had a bit better of a career if I would have embraced that earlier. But like I said earlier, I'm not bummed about my career at all. It's just a good thing to be able to be yourself and then the right things happen.
Did you ever put pressure on yourself, or did you ever get pressure from sponsors that made you feel like you should be somebody else?
No, I wouldn't say it came from sponsors. I'd say it came probably more from like insecurities from within. But like you said, also like if you're around a group of people where they all behave like a similar way, it kind of makes you be like, oh, I should probably behave that way, or I should not like show myself on the internet in this light because nobody else does, where it's like, oh, like everybody can have their own niche. And it's super rad just owning who you are and being yourself. And it's even better if you're a good person, which I hope I am. So yeah. But I don't think like sponsors necessarily ever made me feel that way. No.
If you hang out with a group of people and you go tribal, like you want to feel a part of that tribe because you want to belong to that. So you adapt their ways of life and thinking faster than you think so you can be a part of that group. You know, if you're hanging out with a bunch of doctors and lawyers, you might find yourself mutate a little bit than if you're going to hang out with a bunch of people who are in a metal band.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
That's more I would call it reading the fucking room.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you're not losing who you are by reading the room. There's a difference between that and then being a chameleon, which is like somebody who's like you don't actually ever know who that person is because they have so many different personalities that you're like,
yeah,
I can't put my finger on them. But it's also like, dude, if you're at a fucking funeral or a metal show, you got to act different.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, that actually just made me remember that one time I was sitting around a round table with a bunch of heavy hitters with a sponsor of mine. We were all going around saying whether we prefer the method outside the binding or inside the binding. And everybody was saying outside the binding. And me with my Haldor roots and him going between the bindings, I liked between the bindings. That has since shifted, and maybe this was a pivotal moment on it shifting because the amount of shame I felt when I said in between the bindings. And the whole room kind of like it was like I was an elephant in the room. They're all like, what's wrong with you, dude? What's your deal? And I was just like, damn, I didn't know like there was a right answer to this question. Like I felt so awkward. And I'm just there with all these heavy hitters with such good style that all were just looking at me like, yeah, you're off. But that was part of the like that would make you then maybe behave differently the next time, where it's like, no, it's okay to like a different style. It's
okay to like the method on the nose or in between the binding.
Yeah.
You know, they both work.
Yeah, maybe that should be one of my goals, to do a sick one in both spots in my part. So it's like, well, where does he grab his method?
I don't feel like it needs to be so, you know. Like, look at the front three Indy. The front three Indy, probably at the beginning, the origins, when it first started, really skate influence was probably maybe outside the knee. I think the first couple were probably, especially when you started spinning. And then it quickly became like, you know, late 90s, like boxy style, where like people were grabbing in between the bindings, like the UC JP Solberg kind of era. And now every kid that's doing a front three Indy these days, or spinning with Indy frontside, is doing that frontside grab outside the knee again.
Yeah.
I even see Ika doing it. And Ika was like, you know, one of the figures, him and Arrow and Renzi and stuff like that, like boxy in between. Now it's all outside the knee on that. And you're like, whoa, that's gone.
Yeah, it's always changing.
It's always changing. What keeps you up at night?
Nothing, dude. I sleep so good. It's insane. It's actually my brother. he hates that about me. And he always tells me it's like, because you've never had to stress about a fucking thing in your life. I'm like, dude, I mean, I stress about things for sure. I get bothered by things and times are hard, but never does it affect my sleep.
But they just do not get in the way when Darcy wants to fucking sleep.
Dude, if I want to sleep, I'm sleeping.
Yeah, totally.
It's a blessing. I'm super psyched. I sleep good. We shared a bedroom for like 2 weeks. You saw I'd be out.
Yeah, you slept like a baby.
Yeah. Through alarms sometimes.
You told me I snored one time, and then 3 days later, you're like, and I'm like, motherfuckers, so did you. We're just exhausted after hiking all fucking day. Great roommate.
Yep.
Favorite rail boarder right now?
I'm going to say Hanna from Finland. She rips. She released a movie, Horsepower, this year that I was very impressed with Lolo, too. And those girls are just kind of pushing it, and they're sick. And I don't watch enough steel these days on the guys' side of things to really have a favorite. Because to me, the movies, I miss movies where there's rail riders and powder riders. And it's like all in one. And now it's like you watch a rail movie or you watch a power movie. And when there's a list this long of movies to watch, I just watch the power movies. I watch some rail movies. Might be an unpopular opinion, but there's a lot of movies to get through in the fall and remember them all. So I'm going to go with Hanna. She was killing it.
Favorite pow boarder?
Dude, I mean, I've always been a real big fan of Danny Davis. And I mean, he's like a dad now. I'm sure he's going to put out some crazy footage this year. But every time I watch him link turns or do a trick, like I think he gets me the most fired up.
I love that pick. Okay, this wasn't on the list, but I'm curious to know your picks for the winner of natural selection, men and women's.
Zoe Women's. It's a quick draw. And then I think that I'll just go Bryn Alexander. I think he can go all the way.
Well, you know I love that dog.
yeah. I mean, he's like kind of got underdog energy, but like the most support for what an underdog would. Everybody knows he's that good, that knows him. So all it takes is the pieces coming together. But it's obviously hard to knock like the big dogs that are the big dogs there. But I'm gonna go for Bryn for sure.
Yeah. Great pick. That's if he gets in. We'll see what happens. You know, who knows?
Yeah, I know that's an even more rogue pick because he hasn't even won the duel yet. But
yeah,
but I got a bank on that.
All right, most underrated boarder.
Most underrated boarder. I'll go Cam. Cam on the Canadian national team.
Spalding.
Cameron Spalding.
Just won the Lax Open.
Just won the Lax Open. I think like still you'll pull up to Lax Open next year and people will be like, who do you think's going to win? And nobody would say Cam. Like I feel like he's just not on people's maps of how good he actually is. And like coming from that world of contests that I've been in so much, that's where my head goes. Like I'm sure there's a lot of underrated POW boarders and rail boarders, but I'm not quite like, I don't have my depth in that field enough yet to shout somebody out. So I'm going to shout out the contest dog, Cam Spalding.
I like your, like, if you don't have the depth, you don't have this, like, definitive take on it. Like, similar to, like, do you want to be the best backcountry and the rider in the whole world, Darce?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know. I haven't been to Alaska yet.
yeah, exactly.
But,
like,
maybe.
Like, ask me after I stand on top of a line like that. No, for sure. It's good to know what you know and know what you don't know.
Oh, yeah. And the more you know, the less you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But you still should go.
Yeah.
Unless it's obviously high Abbey or whatever, variable conditions, you're not feeling good.
Yeah.
Or if you have one of those crazy dreams where you're getting pillaged in the middle of the night, don't go riding.
Yeah. But I think
that dream sounded so scary. It's
Dude,
a horror movie.
I know. It was almost too gnarly to say on podcast.
I like that you shared it because like, dude, we're all humans.
Yeah,
and, like,
we all have crazy dreams.
Dream vacation.
Dream vacation. Dude, it's where we have this like crazy thing where that really high mountain on Hawaii, I forget what it's called, but like a crazy storm hits it with a little cold front and it snows so much that we can go there and get clips riding powder. And then at the end of the day, we drive down to the beach and then we're at the beach and we can maybe go surfing on the warm up and then it gets another dumping. That's the dream vacay.
All right. Career highlight.
Dude, I have a couple. Like, as soon as you say that, I just think about all the times I teared up from joy during snowboarding. And I probably have like 5 of those, but the first one was probably I was sitting on the little 2 chair at Breckenridge, and I got the email invite to X Games. And that was like, that just like made me go crazy. Like, I started crying. It was insane. Like, and I called my mom instantly, tell her about it. It's just because that was like my whole, what I wanted to do when I was a kid, and decided like I want to push it in contests and go as hard. It was just getting there. It was like definitely a big moment. And that was right after I had done well in Dew Tour. Not like super well, but goodish. I mean, yeah, no, I think I got 3rd, so it did pretty well. And then, yeah, got that invite, and I was like, holy shit, I did it. I'm like a pro snowboarder like I wanted to be, and I'm going to the contest I dreamed of going to.
What's one other time of pure joy or excitement where you burst into tears because you were like, fuck, yes? Did you cry in the Switchback 16?
Yeah, I did. After the day, though, like driving home, reflecting on it. Like, I'm just thinking about it, and I'm just like, no way I fucking did that. Like, I'm freaking doing it. Like, just like so excited and so overwhelmed with like froth and just like, you know, stoke from all angles of life that, and it's oftentimes like those moments like where I'd call somebody to tell them it happened is when I'd start tearing up, because I'm just like decompressing what just went down. So yeah, I'd say that was one of them too. When I land my hardest trick I've ever landed, that is one of those tricks that when I was younger, that's not even a trick you'd think of that you'd have to do one day. Yeah, so that was one of the moments for sure.
I mean, the 16's a club, you know what I mean? Once you, like, every trick gets exponentially harder, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
A 360 to a 720 is a totally different ball game. Like, if you're a snowboarder and I meet you and you're like, I can 360, and I'm like, okay. If you're a snowboarder and you're like, I can 720, I'm like, whoa, he's about it.
Yeah.
If you're like, I can do a 10, I'm like, whoa, damn. You're like, I can do a 14. Yeah. You go past the 14, it's like, dude, you are...
Yeah, you can board.
You can fucking board.
Yeah.
You can't be you could be a sender and do a 1080. You know what I mean? Drifty. You can't hold your edge on a takeoff. Anything like over a 10, like you aren't being a scrub lord on a 16, or you're going to break your ankles one time real bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And then one last moment to be less like around the contest and snowboarding side of things would be like one night at a bar at Celia's. Like just the group of snowboarders I was surrounded by. I remember that was pretty surreal.
What was the group?
Like just all the guys that were on the contest scene at that time. Like Ben Ferg was there. I think Haldor might have been there. Like just all the people at the time that I was 18 or 19, so 10 years ago, that would have been at a Dew Tour at Breckenridge.
Like Torstein?
Yeah, the whole...
Mark.
Yeah.
Sage.
Not sure if Sage was... I mean, yeah, he would have been.
Damn.
Yeah,
Stale,
like a heavy group of hitters. Yeah, all those guys.
Damn.
Like it was just like packed with all of my snowboarders I looked up to.
And you just burst into tears? Like, I love you guys.
I didn't. I don't think I did. And if I did, I probably just like hit one of those. That would have been so heavy
dope.
One. Yeah.
You're just like at the party, and then just everyone looks at you like, why is Darce crying? You're like, I love you guys.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. That bar is disgusting, dude. The ceiling's so low by the end of the night, you're holding your drink like this because the ceiling's raining sweat. It's insane.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
We kind of ran over this, and I'm going to throw this back. We're still doing the Skull Candy 10 questions here, but we're going to derail for 1 second. Backcountry, you went into it. You filmed with Eric Jackson for a year.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to touch on that experience and maybe 1 or 2 of your favorite backcountry tricks that you filmed.
Oh, yeah. Filming with EJack was such a blessing, and it came out of nowhere. Like, I remember, I think a lot of people were thinking, like, how are they doing a project together? And it just happened by me kind of hitting up Rusty, being like, hey, can I get in the Man Boys project? I got a bit of extra time. I got a bit of budgie. I want to film out there and keep getting my foot in the door. And he's like, oh, we're like pretty full, and you don't have enough money to hire a whole nother filmer. But EJack asked me too. We don't have room for him, so maybe hit him up. And then we just did the Bald Face Maturity course. So we like chilled there and got to know each other and became friends throughout that week. And then I called him and he's like, yeah, I want to do something too. So we just got our sponsors together and got some support, hired Leyland, and then started going out and filming. So it happened super organically like that. And yeah, I felt really honored to film with him because he's a heavy hitter. Like, I think most people know, but I also think sometimes people forget a little bit. because he's so relaxed and he's kind of running like a hunting program, and he just like, if you don't know, then you wouldn't like know all the shit he's been in and all the tricks he's done and lines he's ridden. Like he's a beast. So just going out there with him every day, and especially seeing the natural faces, he would go charged down and then like trying to go up and just like do a run down it, kind of being like, I don't even need cameras because I'm just trying to survive down this thing. And well, he charged like a huge natty front three and then tomahawk down half the thing. Was like, I'm good, I'm going up again. That was really sick. And yeah, so that season was unreal. Really thankful for that. And favorite tricks probably would be switchback 5 perfect jump was definitely a moment, just because that's like one of the features I do know a bit of history on. It's just a big jump, and it felt really good because you get a lot of airtime. And I was really psyched to get that clip because I was crashing so many times. I was battling a different trick. And then the light was leaving, and they're like, it's probably last hit with light. And I was like, I just need a trick. So then I had one chance to do something a little toned down from what I was trying. Got switchback 5. That was really, really sick.
Before you say the second trick, is there still a trick you would like to do on perfect jump?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The other trick that I crashed on all day until I decided to give up and do a switchback 5. But then it actually switched. Yeah, it switched. That was the OG trick I wanted to do on it. But then it switched, and I thought of this one this year because I was like, this would just make a lot of sense with the way the jump is. And that's a front double 10 tail grab, but like done extremely well to where I can hold the tail, and by the end I'm just like pushing a switchback 5 switch nose like really nicely on it. That'd be a dream trick.
Okay, dream trick from me to you.
Yep, you're gifting it to me.
I'm gifting you a dream trick, front 10 nose grab off the toes. Could you do it, or is it too?
I could do it.
It would look so good, flat, and then you pull.
Do you think it would? Okay, well, with that in mind, I'll do that before I knock off my own personal dream
thanks.
trick.
Thanks for prioritizing my wishes.
Yeah. Well, I just think it'll be way easier than the one I want to do. So I'm like, if you think it'd be that sick, I'll try it.
I'm really surprised I didn't chime in and cut Darcy off to tell him that a front 10 tail has already been done on perfect jump. Definitely some people listening right now are like, dude, Cale Stevens, front 10 tail, perfect jump, iconic. But if Darcy dunks that front left shoulder down and turns it into a double cork, and like he was saying, turn it into a switchback 5 nose and really pull it, I think that's fine. He just has to really commit to making it a double cork, or else you'll be doing the same trick that Cale Stevens did 20 years ago.
That being said, there's been a lot of humbling moments out there where I'm like, oh, this won't be that hard. And then it's super hard. And just the in-run sketchy, the takeoff soft. Like there's so many variables that kind of, if you don't do it, it's hard to like appreciate them. That's why crafting a part is so hard and so epic when people do it.
Second favorite trick that you've done?
It's got to be that shifty front 10. That thing was just special to me because I had no plans of doing that. I have never done it before. I didn't even like go there to that jump with that in mind or with a frontside rotation in mind. And then first hit, I did switchback 7 and landed it. I was like, whoa, that was awesome. And this jump's freaking sick. Next hit, I was like, maybe I could do the shifty front 9 that I've kind of done in the park that Kevin Backstrom kind of had done. I don't know if he does it cab or frontside. But so I was like, that'd be pretty sick to do. And the thing with that trick was I knew I could probably go do a front double 10 or maybe even try to crack into the triples. But for me, it was important to do something that would appeal to backcountry people that like are in that community and not just like be the contest kid trying to come out and stamp all my park tricks on all the jumps out there. You know, like it's not a goal of mine to just go like flex my trick arsenal really. Like I want to go dive into the like cool part of snowboarding and the creative part, not just go do all these like super technical tricks that I know how to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, so, the switchback 7 was mint.
So that's why I was like, rather than going cork and stuff, I'm like a shifty 9 would be sick. And I remember taking off. Also that day, I just was bringing any board those days. I don't yet know what board is like the one that works for me in the backcountry or what's smartest for what. So I had like a 165 wide, which is like a pretty heavy board and like quite a clonker. And so I would go for the 9, and I remember like throwing the shifty And then after, when I go to get my grab, it's like the shifty worked. But then when I was like, my body was kind of catching up going back for Indy, like that board just kept spinning like a helicopter because there was so much weight on it that once I like threw my hips forward, it just like wanted to carry me. And then I don't remember how the first hit went, but I think I went 1080 first hit and then it fell. And I was like, whoa, this could work to front 10 and work really well. And then it probably took me like 5 tries and then I landed, but it took a lot of Tommies down that landing, trying it, just like landing good, but then getting squiggled out and flipping over. And yeah, that was a sick one. That felt good. Felt good because it was something you couldn't do in the park. Like I've tried to do that trick in the park since I couldn't really figure it out because sometimes the landings and takeoffs, the way they match up in the park, it just like doesn't work to do certain accesses.
Yeah, step downy because you kind of went off the corner, so you get that like drop factor too.
Yeah, and you can land kind of back seat.
All right, who's the GOAT? Who's Darcy's GOAT?
Yeah, who's my GOAT? I'll give Travis Rice my GOAT.
Let's get a little bit of why do you think Travis Rice?
Well, coming from the little speck of land, Vancouver Island, I didn't have access to like too many snowboard movies. And so I think that's a big reason why like Haldor and Torstein were up there for me because they were on their YouTube game early. So I kind of like was able to get the content from them. And then Travis's like The Art of Flight was like in ski shops. Like that movie made it everywhere. And so I got that movie and it was just like the sickest, most epic stuff. And I like all his like corny, like, like making it more epic than it even is. Like I vibe with it. It fires me up. Like watching Dark Matter, the like guy talking in the background and then the shredding with no snowboarder on it and then closing out at mathematics and closing to the guy talking and then some crazy like drum line. Like I like fall asleep to that because it's like it gives me zen. And I think some people are like, this is like too much for them. And I back it. And he's just pushed the realms of so many things. Like when he did that triple back flip with the back 180 on it and kind of fell over in Art of Flight, like just seeing a triple was like, whoa, that was so sick. And I feel like he always was just doing things that made snowboarding look big and made snowboarding look like bigger than snowboarding is in a sense. Like it looked just phenomenal. And so I just think I fell in love with him for that ability that he had to like see things and just be like, we're going to charge that because it's going to look like a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. I'll never forget seeing like Travis in like the first Absinthe movies doing like these back rodeos over the hip at Super Park and being like, holy fuck, like this guy. And that was 20 plus years ago.
And then last note is he started a snowboard contest that everybody loves. So that's like giving back to snowboarding.
Do you want to end up in NST one day?
Yeah, I'd love to do it. It'd be super fun, I think.
I think you'll be there.
I hope so. Thanks.
Once you tilt that nose down AK, which you'll probably get this year, and you're with the right group to do it. I mean, Rasman's a really good mentor out there. Yeah, I'm excited to see where you take your board, Dars.
And like I said, I like competing, so that just seems fun, a different kind of style of competing. But if I didn't get invited, I'd be happy just to keep filming for as long as I can. That seems really rad too. Like I saw that thing. Do you see that thing Kazu put out the other day where he was kind of like saying natural selection is kind of whack because everybody's doing it, and like snowboarding shouldn't be a thing where every cool person does one thing because then all of a sudden it makes it not cool. Kazu's just the best, man. I love it. He's so rogue, and I love that kind of like fuck you mentality to everything. But I don't necessarily agree with him there. I think natural selection's pretty dope. But I agree with him where you don't have to do it. And if snowboarding sponsors got to a point where it's like, oh, well, if you're going to be our big guy, like you have to go do that. Like I think there should be allowed to be space for guys to be like super pros and at the same level as guys winning natural selection without going to natural selection. Because at the end of the day, like filming is generally the same thing, just not first take.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like sponsors, they sponsor you to get their stuff in front of an audience, and natural selection with a viewership is undeniable. You're getting, and the content they do throughout the whole year, it's like, you're in the millions. And so if you're in that contest and do well, you're like, if you're a big company, you're like, oh, okay, now we get our logo in front of 1 million people. But
yeah, exactly. And that's where I say I kind of disagree with Kazu is like, it's ran by snowboarders. It's like, they try to wait for good conditions. They have a good window. They're not like doing it not poorly, you know, it's done pretty well. So, I mean, it's pretty darn sick.
I think Kazu's wrong because I want to see Kazu
yeah.
more than anyone
Yeah,
ride
you
at
should
that
go to
event.
that.
And I'm just the biggest Kazu fan ever. So
I know.
whatever he decides to do is dope. And yeah, I mean, if you summarize this whole podcast, I think what you were saying is do you, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, fuck it. Darcy, thank you for coming on the show. I'm really excited to see your part come out this year. And
thanks, man.
Keep working hard, boss.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for it. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Any shout outs, last words, closing remarks?
I guess closing remarks. I'll give you the headline that I think you could call it at this. What we've been talking about the whole time is I'm like retiring from FIS, slope styles, and big airs, not doing them anymore. And that was like, there's one going on right now in Calgary, and not going to that one kind of was the final plug of like, yeah, I'm never doing these again.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's pretty sick. Pretty stoked on that. It's been scary. It's been like months leading up to being brave enough to pull the plug fully, but I think it's the right call. And I'll still do like, that's why I say FIS slope styles and big airs, because I'll still do like other fun contests and stuff, but I don't really want to chase the FIS grind anymore. And I'm not even that I don't want to. I'm excited to chase filming. Like, and so you got to follow where you're excited for and put love into where you want to.
I didn't know that. That's exciting because I think that with the mentorship and where you're at and your skill set and your age and everything, the timing, like when talent meets timing, preparation meets timing, I think that's where you're at right now. So I think we're going to have a wild ride of Darcy footage for the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm excited to see it.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then shout outs. Yeah. Shout out Joe McAdoo. He was a childhood coach of mine. Shout out Dane Cacelli. He was an even earlier snowboard coach of mine on BC team. Matt Galena. He was also one of the guys that was instrumental to just like those were the guys that were like, Sunday's a switch day, or like you scrub that, or this, like they instilled in me the skills that make me proud of the way I snowboard, which is like awesome. Because when I see people scrubbing, not popping, it does irk me a bit. And I'm like, you shouldn't, like, just do less if you can't do that good, you know? Mom and dad, brother and sister, love them. And then all my friends in Whistler, like super grateful to live in a town where I can do my job. And it's also like where I live and have a community and have friends that make me feel like, you know, at home. And so it's nice to have that kind of like off switch that's still in the place where I work. So that's epic. And sponsors, of course, Monster. Love you guys. Gyro, special guest. They all have been like super supportive, and Monster through this conversation of switching lanes have been pretty supportive to be like, we're going to support you doing what you want to do and you're going to kill it. And so that's really nice, because it's a scary thing to be like, yeah, I'm going to switch up what I'm doing. Like, you still want to do this with me? And so to have a brand that like cares about snowboarding so deeply that it's not just like cause you're on a podium, it's cause they actually back your snowboarding, it is pretty epic.
Well, you said you looked up to Torstein, so follow those shoes.
Yeah, exactly. When
Torstein was like, and I quit, and I have so much anxiety over quitting, and then he's like, goes into the backcountry, and he's like, this is where I was born to be.
Yeah, exactly. That's something I've been telling people when I've been talking this through, is like all the pro snowboarders that I looked up to stopped competing while they still were good at competing and started filming, and all the snowboarders that I didn't look up to stopped competing when they were no longer good at it, and I never saw them again. So it's good to go out while you can still get a result. Like somebody said that to me. They're like, well, I still see you as like a guy that could like on a good day, like on your day, like still like get on the podium. And I'm like, good. Like, that's how I want you to remember me in the contest world. I don't want to like be remembered as some washed up guy that like looks like shit because he's trying to do a trick that's out of his league because these little young kids are spinning extremely fast.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. That was amazing. We're excited to see you in the backcountry. Darcy's footage this year will be coming out under Rusty's project, Megafauna Films.
Haven't decided the name yet.
Don't have a name.
Yeah.
But it's going to be good. So check that out, and take care. Be a good person. And thanks for tuning in, and go watch Airtime TV. Thanks to the Patreons and all the sponsors of the show. Thanks, Monster, for coming on board. Love y'all.
Yeah, gang. Thanks, Jody.
Peace.